YouTube, it's Brian Phelps. Look at this, we got the Husky Ultimate. This thing is huge, 1800 millimeters, 6S. If you want 4S, just get the regular Husky. We're running it today on an NX8, and inside of here, we have an Arrows 6S, 3200, and that's where we put it. And we have a 620 that is running in tandem with a Vector. Vectors have been really nice. You don't have to do a lot of special tuning, which really does make it a lot easier to set these planes up. So if you're leaning toward a plane equipped with Vector for stabilization and auto leveling as a beginner plane, not a bad call. Okay, elevator up, down, yaw left, right, roll right. Always check your control surfaces. Take off flaps. Here we go, guys. Get that tail wheel up. Oh yeah. So just so you guys know, I didn't need to roll up to 3 meters like the box said. I think they might have meant a real one. By the way, no trims, no nothing yet.
That's crazy.
And this thing is flying like crazy. Look at the speed.
And it is getting windy.
It is getting very windy. Man, it cornholes really good. Get the thing flying. Bring it in for a low pass. Oh, yes. So on 6S, the thing does really good. Now I'm assuming that you can do this on 4S, but I don't know. Who's gonna fly this plane on 4S? If you're gonna fly it on 4S, why don't you just get the regular one? You hear the squeal?
Yeah.
I love it. Listen. It screams. Now we do have a cheap voltage alarm in there. That is crazy, the ups this thing has. Okay, so let's do a couple of stall takeoffs now. There's full landing flaps. Let's do a little bull flying for a minute. Actually, before we do that, we'll land at our feet, hopefully. Man, that is some wind shear. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. Coming right up those trees. About 15% throttle there, 30% throttle. Just so you guys know, full disclosure, if you weren't already aware, when it's real windy, you do have to stay in the speed a little bit more or you're gonna get pushed down. This bull is a very challenging environment for planes. And that's part of the reason why we show it, is because we are not big about faking it. Come on, there you go. So obviously grass ops, no problem. Even relatively thick grass. That is just nuts. Okay, so this does have auto leveling. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'll go ahead and get into a strange attitude and then turn it on. There's safe or auto leveling, okay? Limited bank angles are decent. Keep your speed up. Limited bank angle left, limited bank angle right. Looks like we mixed in a little rudder. There's limited up. There's limited, wow, there's a lot of down. Okay, full landing flaps. Let's try a landing with auto leveling on. Look at it, it's way up there. It's gonna take a while. But you can still push it down with your auto leveling, which is good. That helps save people's planes. People that design planes think that beginners don't need down because they crash. Well, the problem is what happens is if you eliminate somebody's capability of lowering the plane, they have flyaways, okay? So this is good in the Vector. Okay, we're out of the Vector, auto leveling. There's your stall takeoff. So it took less than a plane length when properly actuated. And yes, there is a tiny, teeny bit of P factor on the 6S configuration here. Guys, you know what this plane reminds me of? Other than the price tag? Carbon Z Cub. I would say it's just as docile. It's a little bit more heavy. So it's kind of like an in-between the Beaver 2 meter and the Carbon Z Cub, which by the way, the Carbon Z Cub, I don't want to take anything away from it because it is big and it is beautiful and it's probably got a little bit less density than this plane. So there's definitely some advantages there. And it's got no lights. You'll note what you'll see on both ends of the aircraft that's pointed at us would be nav lights and landing lights. Man, look at this wind, it's just
It's
nuts.
crazy.
Boom! That's awesome. 0 feet landing. Okay, so let's pull back a little bit. We'll just do a little bit more realistic looking scale, more scale takeoff here. 37-foot approach, that was about 30% throttle, and I got off the ground absolutely no problems. And then room to spare so we can fly in this tight little area. Roll rate is pretty good for a huge wing. You'll see I'm into the throttle a lot on this plane, and it's just what happens when you get into one of these planes. A little bit of slip, and then down. It does like to drag those wingtips, and I must say, in a windy environment, you're gonna tend to find that more. Obviously, because you get to an airspeed where your ailerons are no longer effective, and so you can't always counter that behavior where the wing tips down and droops. And then that wing droop doesn't help anything either in terms of, okay, so I want to take off before the grass ends. Oh yeah, no problem. Cruising, we're gonna go to town, get some Christmas returns taken care of.
Returns?
Yeah, you know why? Goodness gracious, camera crew, aren't you part of the production crew too? Full throttle cornhole. Man, that thing just does it. You feel the wind? Goodness gracious. When did it get windy?
About 6.5 minutes ago.
Yep, true. I love hearing that noise. That is so cool from presumably from the wing struts. Okay, full landing flaps. We'll bring it in, try to hit it on the landing strip here. Just so you guys can see the wheels are the fatal flaw in this plane. I gotta be honest, guys, they're strong and the landing gear are awesome. They do have a lot of flex in them, but look how rock hard those suckers are. Not the thing I'm riding home about on this plane. That would be the wheels. You'll note the nice tight figure eight. That's only probably about 100 feet, maybe 110. So we're gonna do a 50-foot circle. You can only do that in planes that have the power. If you don't have power, you can't tempt Mother Nature like that. Because when it gets windy like this and you try to do that tight, flat turn, you're gonna get a lot, and plus I'm not that far out of ground effect right here. Whoa, did you see the wing dip? Beeping. I've been hard on this pack, and we are 2 minutes 15 past our 5 timer. So we got 7 minutes of pure energetic flight time. And by the way, wind does cause a penalty in flight times, in my opinion, generally speaking. Okay, we're just gonna gas it right in and land at our feet like you should with a STOL aircraft. And then you'll note that it has an absolutely gorgeous wood prop. This plane, if you're thinking about buying a plane right now as a beginner, I would recommend that you follow our links and consider this, because I don't see any reason why you couldn't plop a 4S pack in there and then fly that thing for a little bit, and then you can upgrade to 6 when you're ready for more power and speed. However, what saves lives?
Power.
Speed. Speed, not power, but power also, yes. Power usually equates to speed, but not always. So that being said, beautiful plane. Guys, this thing is gorgeous. It works really good. We're super impressed with the quality of these Aeros planes that we've been doing. We honestly weren't sure what to think, but look at this, guys. Look at this. There is articulation, and it's all just a big spring, okay? Very easy to take out, very easy to replace, by the way. And then also, you can do floats on this plane. They don't come with the floats. You have to buy those separate. I think they're like 60 bucks or something, so they're really pretty economical. But I would say one thing about floats. Floats are huge. This plane is big. You need to keep that in mind. The wings do not come off hard, but they don't come off super quick, and it is definitely not toolish. You need a Phillips and a number 2 millimeter,
Yep.
2 millimeter here and here. That being said, it's not hard, but I was disappointed that there weren't quick disconnects on the wing, because a plane of this size is going to challenge people getting in their cars. However, These type of planes, the Cubs, they are very long because they have a huge wing, but they're not that tall and they're not that long. So the width is the factor that causes people trouble. So like for us in our 2011 Traverse is what we drive for personal. We have captain's chairs, and then we have a back seat that can fold down. So you can fold down, you have to fold down the 60 so you can get the wing in there. Because you can't fold down the 40 because the nose is taking up too much room. The other thing is, I think we're gonna come up here because the wind's gonna knock down then. If you're flying in a pickup truck or flying from a pickup truck, then you can easily get this in the back of a pickup bed, even if it's a 6-foot bed. But the trouble is, when you put a big plane in there like that, you take up the whole room. So that was one bit of disappointment I had on this model, was that taking the wing off, the wires are routed in such a way, and I did add this piece of tape, folks. The wires are routed in such a way that by the time you're done, you're gonna wanna come up with some sort of a quick disconnect yourself. Now you can buy them, you can glue them into the wings so that they slip in, but really, I don't take my planes apart and I don't care. But the thing is, people that do routinely have to take apart their planes to fly, funny thing is, the tail comes off really easy. So I think that might have been a bit of a miss. And then the tires, of course, they look gorgeous, but they are way too dense. Manufacturers, I hope you're listening. Give us some squishy tires. Your target audience likes to squish tires. I'm just saying it because it's obvious throughout the entire history of time. So anyway, give us squishy tires. We want them. We deserve squishy tires. Anyway, I don't want to beat that dead horse because I don't really want to take away from how perfect this plane is, but everybody beats me up for, you know, not ever pointing out these things. Well, we always point these things out, so I don't know who those people are, but you're watching. I guarantee you'll be in the comments below. Anyway, look at this plane. It's trying to fly. It wants to fly so bad, the wind is blowing it away. So, in closing, the Husky Ultimate is awesome. Okay, so if you're gonna buy the Husky Ultimate versus the Carbon Z Cub, you're buying an AR620 in this. If you buy the Carbon Z Cub, you're gonna be buying it for significantly more money. Now, I'm not saying it's not worth it because it is probably a third bigger plane. And it doesn't seem like it'd be that big, but it is about third, it's like double the size, but the wingspan and everything. 2.1 meter plane is a lot bigger than 1800 millimeter. Just like 1800 millimeter is a lot bigger than 1.2 meter. And you guys that are new to piloting RC aircrafts will not believe me, but it is totally true. So that being said, this plane is awesome. It meets all the criteria of what it suggested it would do. It does it with style. It's easy to fly. Using an AR620, which is like a $50 receiver right now, is really inexpensive to get this thing as a plug and fly going. Now, if you don't want the Vector, or if you're buying this in a market that doesn't support the Vector, which is true, there's areas where you can't get the Vector, just like we can't get the Reflex in North America on certain planes. That means, which, you know, anyway, the long and short of it is you could put an AR637 in there and have full telemetry. You could put a smart ESC in there. You could have thrust reverse. And then all of a sudden, but you're gonna spend a lot of money doing that. Here's what I would do instead. Enjoy this as an 1800 millimeter plane that is a little bit easier to get in the car. I understand it's still gonna be hard because you're gonna have to have the seats down and all that. But what you do is get yourself some pneumatic tires. I'd probably go for a 4-inch tire. It's gonna be slightly bigger than this. We have some 4.5s, maybe we'll try it on here. But either way, beautiful plane, love the way it flies. And honestly, the only complaint would be the tires. That's really it. I mean, what was the other complaint that I came up with? I can't remember now. It's so minor.
The wings. I mean.
Oh, the wings, not removable.
I saw the wings, I guess.
Sorry, guys. I have to take off again. This thing, it wants to fly. You hear the beeping?
Yes. I heard it when you landed the first time.
Oh, are you getting nervous? Look at this slip, guys. Look at that steep slip. That is awesome. Just trying to bleed off energy, that's all. That's one reason why the tires are good. You guys like it when I give you dead stick landings. It's hard to induce a dead stick landing in a plane that's a prop driven plane. Who am I kidding? That was rudder and ailerons. That's why it was so sloppy looking. Let's try a landing that's not a stall landing. We got a little bit of wind, so we may have to work at it. Whoa, did you see that? Terrible. This thing is a stall plane. So as I said earlier, 7 minutes of flight time is very realistic. By the way, our alarm is set to 3.6 volts, which is a little lame. We could probably go a little lower, but I was just trying to play it safe here. Oh, welcome to the club, Husky. Husky Ultimate. I didn't want to hit that big chunk of dirt that I hit the last time, so I kind of janked it up there. So I would say, yeah, this thing is just going to give and 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 give. And yes, a couple things that this beats the Carbon Z Cub on. Whoa! Did you see that thing get smacked down by Mother Nature? There's some major wind right there.
She's trying to tell you something.
She is? Okay, I'm listening. Mother, I'm listening. Here it is. 15% throttle. At our feet, not quite. See, if they were squishy tires, just kidding, guys. That wouldn't have fixed that terrible landing. With the wind, you can hear the motor loading is so much lower. Okay, here we go. Right over the tree line. I got to avoid that weird wind shear area. You see that sink there? Nice. That I can live with. Okay, throttle cut's on. No more soup for you. Stay tuned. We're going to do the build, the unbox, build, and radio setup on this Husky Ultimate. We love it. It's a great plane. I would definitely, it just keeps flowing away. Do you see this guy's in the background? So I love the plane. It's a great plane. Give us some squishy tires, people. Other than that, buy one from the link below. You'll help support our channel. If you're curious about how we set it up, stay tuned and we will show you. And if you're bored over the Christmas holiday or you're trying to figure out where to spend grandma's gift money, don't worry, look no further than Brand Phillips RC. I'll help you pick something that you really like. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we told you we're gonna try something new. This is a Velcro we pulled out of this plane during our unbox, build, and radio setup. And I usually discard this or just keep it for another project, like I keep everything. So I'm gonna peel that off. I trimmed a piece of this, and you could actually do this while it's in the plane too. But look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just plop down some of this shelf liner, okay? So then that's gonna make it so that it's like stuck to the battery. Now that is gonna add a little bit of thickness, and I probably could have overcut this a little bit. In fact, I'm gonna take my scissors and trim that down just a little. You see what happened on the edge? Okay. So now you guys may have noticed a change in the video quality from our unbox build radio setup to our actual flight. And that's because, like all good YouTubers, we have made a significant investment in new camera gear.
The camera crew got a new camera.
The camera crew got a new camera. And so we just wanted you guys to know that we do care. And we're always constantly upgrading stuff so that we can try to make a better experience for you.
Yes.
But we aren't gonna upgrade the things that you love, which is myself and the camera crew.
Or the actual way we do.
Or change anything else ever.
Well.
Okay, so we're getting ready. This is right before the Maiden, so we haven't even seen it. So we got a little voltage alarm in there. And we're just gonna try to throw this in and see how it goes, because this lead is so long, you can actually put the battery either way, but then you can get up here. There's a bushing on the back of the motor, but then there's a bulkhead that protects you from pushing your battery all the way into it. So my predisposition is flat like this. This is the Arrows 3200 6S that we're gonna be using this morning. And the 3200 Smart Pack needs an adapter on it, so it does take up quite a bit more room, and I don't even have the correct adapter on there. It's IC5 to IC3, like this. IC5 to IC3. And I think they say battery to device. I think that's the way they use the nomenclature for Horizon Hobby stuff. So we're just gonna put this in here, and this video will be kind of in a weird order, because when we add these last second, you know, like, ooh, this would be a good idea, let's try this. And then we find that that worked. See, like, even that is huge, because then you don't have to have near as much pressure on your straps. But it is a lot harder to adjust this out in the field when we're ready to fly. So you have to, you know, kind of balance your choices. I'm moving the whole plane,
Yeah,
no
that's pretty
problem.
good.
That's really good. That was a humongous improvement. And then you've got a little bit of sponginess because of the
Thickness.
Velcro.
Yeah.
So that should help.
Hey, people are gonna ask, so can I tell them what we're using? Or you want to put it in the comments?
Yes, you can tell them what your new camera is.
So we don't actually film on a camera. We film on our cell phones. That's
how
the way
cleaned up it is.
That's the way we've always done it. This is morning.
This is our fifth.
Yeah, we've always filmed on our regular phones. And so I just got a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. So that's a step up from Brian's S9 that we had been filming on for the last couple of years probably. And then
Prior to that, S7.
And then S5 and an S3. So that's all we've really ever used. So we'll see how this goes with filming today.
Yeah, it's going to be a new thing for us. And so the other big announcement that's buried in the middle of this video is that you're probably watching this on a day that I'm not even in town, which is, I don't really go out of town. I mean, I go out of town for work, but I don't go out of town like overnight.
Nope.
And so I'm going on a crazy mission. A mission for you, for YouTube. So you'll be hearing more about it soon. And we just wanted to let you know that the crazy mission will be shared, but I don't know if I'll be able to share the crazy mission itself. Maybe some highlights, I hope.
Hopefully.
So you see, I have to unstrap the battery. Okay, so this is why we share this in live and in person.
To adjust.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I want, because now when I get this set and the CG is satisfied, I think we had it right on the edge last time, didn't we? And I had forgotten that. Because the other thing that you guys may not be aware is many times when we're filming 3, 4, 5 days from when we started. 2 nights ago, we had storms that came through. And you may have noticed also that our tarp is missing. And that's a 30 feet by 40 feet tarp. It's huge. And so that got destroyed or damaged really badly. And that was because of a windstorm. But we did really good compared to some of the guys in the Midwest that had their entire Amazon facilities torn down and people got killed. So our thoughts and prayers are with those families. And then there was also something like 80 people that got killed in Kentucky, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's terrible, but you never know. That's why you don't wait to do things like this, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. So please do check the link and buy one of these for yourself. Was that a terrible plug?
Oh.
It seems so insensitive when I use death to sell things like every other industry. That wasn't really my intention, but the point is, you don't know what you're gonna be doing tomorrow. You don't know if you're gonna like stick your hand down in the dishwasher disposal to like, you know, get your ring out and then have your fingers maimed. I mean, there's terrible things that happen all the time, and I don't need to elaborate on them. By the way, we talk about these gloves all the time. These are Nitrile Gloves, and they are what I use to stay warm when we're filming in the colder weathers. And usually what I'll do is I'll do it like this, and I will use the same ones over and over again, and people have asked about them a bunch, so I figured we better show this too. So these are like a mechanic style glove, and yes, I go through tons of gloves at work, but then I go through tons of gloves at plants. And I have trained myself over the last 16 years or so to work in gloves. It is something that I'm used to, and I know that many of you guys will say, well, I'm gonna lose my dexterity. See, that second glove is really hard to get on, because if, like, I use an extra large in this size, but I'll use a large in other sizes, so it just depends on your hand size. And I prefer a pretty tight fit, and so you'll see, I'll pull my fingers. So you see my fingernail there? You gotta do that if you wanna get these things lined up right. And then when you're done flying, you can keep the same pair for years. I have the same pair that I've had for years. If they come off in a pair, it's really nice. So you just go in here and you peel the first and second layer, and then you just go inside out with it. Then you have to let it dry, and then you can blow it inside out, and they slip right on. And if you're allergic to different powders and things like that, I think nitrile is better than, there was some other different rubbers that were used, like latex, and a lot of people have allergies to that. So anyway, just wanted to talk about that for a quick second. And then the dexterity is not lost, okay? Throttle hold is on and tested, because I was afraid I might do that. So without further ado, we gotta go fly. This is coming to you right before the Unbox build and radio setup, and we just wanted you to know that we are working hard, diligently, and spending a fortune to try to upgrade things like mics, camera gear, and obviously we already did behind the scenes, we did a new computer this last year so that we can start doing some editing. We don't know how that's gonna look. We hope to be able to provide the full uncut footage just like before, but then possibly mix in some more entertainment value instead of being 3 hours long or 3.5 hours long, which is just like crazy if you guys can watch that whole video. Our lifestyle would never allow us to do that. It doesn't work that way for us. So a 5-minute video or a 6-minute video or 7-minute video where people actually have enough time to watch that on a quick break or while they're eating their lunch or whatever it is. So we're trying to be receptive to what our audience needs are, but it is much harder than it looks when you try to do training in a 10-minute video. So that's what we bring at Brian Phillips RC, is just a different experience. This isn't the, we're not the sailors, and we're not trying to take anything away from their success. We're not Ryan. Ryan's doing things, which is cool. We're not the Slovakian brothers, which we love too, and they're hilarious. We're trying to get you from point A to point B, and that's from not flying to flying. And getting over that hump is very, very challenging. So it stops a lot of you from trying. So if you're listening to this message right now, I am talking to you. You don't need to be an expert to do this. You just need to start, and you will become an expert as fast as you become an expert. It just takes time. It takes patience, and it takes actually a very little bit of money anymore. You would have had to spend 15 times as much to get into this stuff 10 years ago. It's incredible, the technology that's available. That being said, I'm not gonna go any more on the soapbox, but we just wanted to let you guys know that we are always behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the scenes, just so you know what's going on. We're always expanding this channel so that we can bring you more new and exciting experiences, and also ways to support us, like buying this thing from the link in the video description below, which also helps to support the companies that we work with, which is way better than seeing a Coca-Cola advertisement right now, or an Amazon advertisement right now, or a heat shrink advertisement right now, which would run for, start, 15 seconds. And then that stupid, annoying extra 6 seconds, which, by the way, that stupid, annoying stuff pays to have this channel alive. So as much as I hate them, and believe me, when I'm replying to comments and I have to go to a timestamp, guess what I do? I watch an ad every time. So if you think you watch a lot of ads on YouTube, you have no clue, because I'm replying to thousands of comments a month, and hundreds of those comments do require me to actually open up the video, watch, figure out what was happening, what was the question, and then try to respond. And you guys know I do it, because you can go back through history and see responses to pretty much every question. So that's what we bring on Brian Phillips RC that the other guys aren't bringing, and we're not changing that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bring it in a more concise manner, which is gonna be terrible. I hope they don't fire the host. And also, we wanted to thank you guys for another wonderful year. And thanks to Arrows for working with us. Arrows, or Arrows, if you prefer to say it the stupid way I do. They've been great to work with. They've been putting out some really amazing equipment, which is great. And for all of you that are gonna complain that it's just FMS, well, then you call up FMS and speak Chinese and work out some deal to import thousands of airplanes and then sell them. Go for it. Let me know when you do that, because then you can send us airplanes too. But anyway, guys, we love working with all the vendors. You got to remember, most that try fail, and they have not failed. They are succeeding. And we want to help bring you guys successful companies that are responsive, that are punctual, that are fair, and that are solid, and they're gonna be around in like 4 or 5 years. So that's part of the reason why we've partnered up with the companies we've partnered up with, and we have strategically not partnered up with a few other companies that we don't wanna partner with. So we try to kind of weed through the garbage so that what we bring is the good stuff. And that's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. So if you didn't already know that, now you know that. Stay tuned, there's more coming. And we really appreciate your support. Thanks to the Patreons, we've had a handful of new Patreons come aboard. So we really appreciate you guys. I don't do call outs because I don't want to embarrass people. I know people sometimes get embarrassed by these things, but if you want to call out, let me know, because you know you can reach me if you have Patreon, and you can reach me without Patreon, because this is not a pay-to-play site. If we weren't raising money with you guys buying these things, then we probably would stop doing it. But the thing is, we're paying for it, so that's the key. And so we want to be able to bring this to people that don't have the money to support us directly. And when you get in a position where you can, great. But anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching, guys. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. We got a nice little box. A dainty little one. You've already seen it fly. We started working with Arrows this year here, what, like 2.5 months ago, camera crew?
Something like that, pretty close.
And we have been super duper happy with the way that each and every one of the planes has worked out. And oh, buddy, would you look at that? It is the Husky Ultimate 1800 millimeter Cub looking airplane, also known as a Husky. So I am going to cut the box on both sides this time. We do unboxings for you, and we go literally all in here on Brian Phillips RC. If you are looking, you're probably seeing this video right after Christmas. Ooh, look what we found in the bottom of the box, an AR-620.
Oh, that's handy.
So I'll put that right there. We have been doing these planes for Arrows, and we have been super impressed. I mean, they've been very good. We never really know exactly what to expect when we get into it with new companies. There's some paperwork in here. Oh yeah, Vector, which means there is a flight stabilizer, and you can hook up your AR-620 inside the plane, and then you get your flight stabilization and auto leveling if you so choose to use it. Oh, that worked pretty nice, actually. Oh. Sometimes opening these gigantic boxes can be a real bear cat.
What are the cats gonna play in?
I don't know. Okay, so this thing is 1800 millimeters, 71 inches wingspan. And the motor size is 3948, 550 kV, goodness gracious. 50 amp ESC for a prop plane, it's pretty big. Servos, 23 gram servos. Those are big servos, guys. There's 6 of them. This is a 6-channel setup. It's got a 13.75 two-bladed prop. Runs on 6S 3300 30C. So we're gonna see, oh, you know what? I think there might be a battery in here possibly too. Oh, there is. I'm glad I checked. There was a little bit of this stuck in the foam. Oh. So we have this Arrows battery 3200 milliamp. So we can get that thing started charging. This isn't ready to fly, is it? No, it's not ready to fly. So. I think they just sent along these items for us to use. So we've been happy with the batteries. Obviously, you guys know we do a lot of smart technology stuff because we work with Horizon. And you can actually get the smart batteries from Arrows, which is Hobby Zone. When you decide to buy from the links, you can just buy what you want there, or you can follow whichever direction you want, but we will show it with this battery, which is gonna be a 6S 3200. It looks like it goes up to 3300 recommended, but this is a pretty good size. And then of course this has the balance lead, which is nice if you don't have the telemetry to warn you about the condition of your battery. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on our smart charger here. I'm gonna grab this fancy dance little adapter. Of course, we've got a million different adapters. Now we will be able to use an XT60 airplane connector with one of our standard 6S packs except that it's hard to do that with a smart battery because the smart batteries come with an IC5. So keep that in mind if you're using your smart batteries like this, okay? And that is because you're probably not gonna have the right adapter. You will need to adapt that down. But an XT60 should be fine for the current, in my opinion. And look, that doesn't work so good. So that's why we have this little adapter. We've used different adapters over the years. In fact, we almost never show this anymore, but we have this thing still, and we use it occasionally, even on the smart charger. And I built all sorts of different, adapters here so we can do parallel charging, and we can get little batteries ready to go, or little adapters like this that will take me from a big battery to a small battery, an IC5 to an EC3. So just be aware as you get into the hobby a little bit deeper. Obviously, if you're buying this plane, probably not a first plane, I'm guessing, but it probably wouldn't be a terrible first plane either. There's a lot of different connectors. Soldering is helpful. If you don't know how to solder, don't be afraid of it. It's not that hard. Just get yourself a good quality soldering iron and go for it, and we'll help teach you here. So in the smart charger, when you have a non-smart battery like this is brand new and perfect, and there's no puff, which is awesome. Just go ahead and plug in your discharge lead using an appropriate adapter if necessary. In this case, there is an adapter needed. And we're just gonna plug this in. We always plug in the batteries right away when we notice we've got them. So camera crew is gonna come over, and you can see it does show the balance, and it'll show internal resistance once we start. So I'm gonna press the start button, and then I'm gonna move up, and it's at 2200, 2.2 amps. So I'll actually charge it at 1C, which will be 3.3 amps, just like this. And you do have to scroll that in and then go down to start. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Brian, how do you know that it needs to start? Start. Why is it not starting?
Because you're holding it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, see? The camera crew knows best. Now, the saturation's weird. This is actually black. See how my hand is colored strange? Let's show them this one more time. How do you know what speed to charge your battery at? Oh, I did it at 3.3. Good enough. 3.2 is what it should have been. So if you make a mistake, just press the play, highlight the choice you want to make, choose it, which is stop. Then I'm going to press this, and I'm going to roll up to current, and I'm going to scroll down one click and then start it. So it's really easy to do. In the older days, when we were charging a non-smart battery, we had to set it on another platform, but it's all the same stuff. 3,300 milliamps divided by 1,000 gives you 3.3 amps. So some of the chargers speak in amps, and some of them speak in milliamps. So just know that milliamps are 1,000th of an amp, okay? All right, so getting back to where you came for, which is the opening of this beautiful box. You've obviously seen it fly already, which is why we put the flights at the beginning here on Brian Phillips RC. If you weren't aware of it, because we try our best to give the audience what they want without undermining what other audience members want, which is generally the entire scope of the Unbox build and radio setup, for the fact that many people are new to the hobby and they're trying to learn how to do a lot of these things that the companies that even, I would say Hobby Zone is pretty good about understanding when people are new, they need more help, and they're helpful. But at the end of the day, even the hobby shops, the best ones, still don't seem to get it. It's like there's a lot of things that people don't know. For instance, people don't know that you have to put some minor assembly together on these things. So I don't want you to be off-put when you order a plane like this and you don't get a giant box like the size of a small SUV in your front yard, okay? You do have to put these things together, and that's why people buying things from the interweb will come and watch an unbox. I've never really gotten into unboxings myself because I think it's boring, but I know some of you guys need some help. So we're gonna help you now. So we're just gonna take this apart, show you how the fit and finish of the packaging is, and then you guys can make up your own mind. Okay, so I am a sucker for Cubs. I love the Carbon Z Cub, and this is just a little bit smaller. That's a 2.12 meter, or excuse me, I think it's 2,120 meters, but typically it's described as a 2.1 meter plane. So this is gonna have a super easy to clip in wing assembly. That was much easier than the Carbon Z Cub. Also, this wing is solid, meaning that it's filled in. There is a beautiful little detail here, little vortex generators. Now they don't look like much because they're not raised very high, but feel that, camera crew. Those are raised enough that they will actually produce a vortex. And the vortex increases the speed of air that passes over the top of the wing surface. So you create a low pressure system above the wing and that lifts, but that happens because of the shape of the wing. The vortexes keep airflow fast and precise here. So what does that do? It keeps the plane controllable at slower speeds. So they do that on real planes. Okay, cool. So we do have a flap. This is an inboard flap, meaning it's on the inside of the wing as opposed to an outboard aileron. You'll note that the aileron is a little bit bigger than the flap on this. And then we have this little droop on the back. And you'll see that detail is true on some other planes, which is really cool. That helps to keep the air from slipping out. And it also helps reduce the drag on the tip of the wing, which is pretty cool. There are LEDs in this wing, which is pretty cool. There's a LED there, and then there's two LEDs here. I'm assuming they flash. Oh. So I'm super excited to see this plane go together. It looks really nice. 23 gram, those are digital Metal Gear servos. So when you see a 23 gram servo that's that size, that means that the Metal Gear servos in size are gonna be a little bit smaller than their plastic counterparts. So if you're sizing servos, they're sized by how much they weigh, which is weird. So 9 gram micro servos are what we're used to seeing a lot of times in this area, in this arena. Okay, so look at this. Got some instructions here. We also have this insert that's dropped in when they come with the Vector. We have been super duper happy with the Vector. I thought at first, that was probably one of my biggest concerns with dealing with the Aerosplanes, as I said, I don't wanna have to buy, you know, like an economy plane that's not gonna have good, I mean, we used to do a lot of dynoms and they were just, we just ran into nothing but problems basically. And we got to the point where we just were like, we can't bring this to the audience anymore.
We just haven't, the other stabilizers.
The other stabilizers have been okay.
Yeah.
We used to use Lemon a lot for a long time. We had really good luck with that.
But the Vector
system, the Vector has been really good. So.
I like that design on the wing.
So that clicks right in, but look, you can take it right out. Just be careful that you don't rip out that piece, okay? So you wanna brace it and then walk it out by squishing your fingers together. See how it came out? It's not gonna break. Now, when this gets cold, your plastic will get more brittle. So be aware of that. So these wings look good. Oh, there is definitely a spar in there. See this? A little bit of flex, but it's definitely not flexing laterally.
Yeah, you can see.
Yeah, a little teeny bit of flex, but it's nothing to write home about. You're not gonna load the outside of the wing without loading the inside of the wing in this type of application. Okay, so we have to cut this whole thing in half. There's nothing here and nothing here. There's nothing here and nothing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Okay, so if you guys are new to the channel, what do we do on Brian Phillips RC is we basically go through the process of putting the whole plane together, start to finish, and then we show you how to set it up on a radio system that's appropriate, or at least what's our taste. There are other ways to do things, we understand that. We're not the only ones that do this. But we think that we do an all right job of it. And lots of you have given us lots of positive feedback, but always leave comments. If you guys have something to ask us, we try our best. We've been caught up on comments for a while, which is super nice. That is beautiful.
That's really cool.
I love the way that looks.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of black planes.
No.
Which is strange. I don't know why that is.
It was just...
Well, I know why, because sometimes black gets hard to see in the air. It will disappear, and I love that it's flat black. Mm-hmm. That is so cool.
It's really
and
striking.
Ball joints.
Yeah.
We've been seeing a lot more ball joints these days. And even on the smaller planes, because typically you wouldn't think ball joints are necessary, but ball joints really do help. Now let's talk about stiffness of the wing. There's plenty. I wouldn't say it's super stiff, but it's enough. And then of course the wing joiner for the two halves is really good. These are the types of improvements that we're seeing on aircraft that we didn't have when I got into it. And it was, you'd have an elevator that you would give input from one side and then the other side wouldn't quite keep up. You know, so this side would go up like this and this side would, you know, it wouldn't quite keep up. And so what that did is it always induced a little bit of roll, depending on which direction you were going, up or down. So it's been much improved. Looks like, oh, it's a wooden prop too.
Oh, cool.
So cool. I didn't know it was a wooden prop. I love wooden props. They're so pretty. And they're so light. And they sound cool. And they look gorgeous. But that's a 13.6. That's not what was listed on the manual. It said 13, it said 17. Didn't it
What
say?
did the box say? I can't remember now what you said.
Well, now I'm gonna read it again because I'm concerned. It says 13.75. That's a 13.6.
But
what if they changed their mind?
It looks like a plastic prop on the box. So
oh,
would that
I
be
wonder
the
if they
difference
switched it
out
around.
the prop?
Or maybe it's a 6S configuration versus a 4S configuration. So then there's this washer, for some reason came in that bag. So maybe there are two props included in this. I guess we're gonna find out here in just a minute. Okay, so I tried pulling this vertical stabilizer and rudder out, but I can't get it out without taking this wing joiner out first. This is a carbon fiber rod, I believe. You can tell because it ting, 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 instead of like boom, 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 boom. If it was plastic, then it would be heavier. This might be carbon fiber, but I'm not 100% certain. You can also take out your ohm meter and you can actually measure, and you're supposed to be able to measure lower ohms, well, close to no ohms because the carbon fiber conducts. Also, carbon fiber interferes with radio frequencies, so you need to be careful. Oh yeah, that looks good. Beautiful, guys. This is an overspray here. So basically they have a jig that they use at the factory and then they make their paint job. That is a foam hinge that's glue reinforced. Very unique design. We're not used to seeing such an opaque finish. You can't even see through this. And that's really cool, guys. Look at this. Up against the light, the orange barely shines through. Obviously the black doesn't. So really excited. I also like that this has a wide footprint on it and screw together here, bushings, brass bushings, brass bushings. Look at this robust plastic mechanism to receive the steerable tail wheel. I mean, we're looking at some pretty good assemblies anymore. And everything bolts together instead of always having to glue together. Now that I've said that, I'm sure we'll find something we have to glue. Okay, so we're gonna grab the spinner out. And some of these things that we've come to sort of be spoiled by. Oh, I love that that's flat black too. So maybe a little bit pointier than I would have liked to see on this plane. But that flat black is beautiful.
Really cool.
Then of course they've got this hex shape, which is gonna take, and then of course there'll be a screw that goes through there. And everything's gonna lock together. The spinner is beautiful. All right, so I have to take the fuse out. Usually try to take everything else out first because it's kind of like the money shot. Okay, so here is a flap Y-splitter, a wing joiner, a couple of decorative antennas, and it looks like we've got here, you can show the people. Let me get the next piece coming.
It's not a very big.
Not a very big nut and bolt sack.
No, it's not. It's my favorite.
All right, so wowzers. That is gorgeous. Okay, so I'm trying not to mar the finish. You do have to be a little bit careful with these foam planes because you will mar the finish with your fingernails. So you got to be careful when you do that. I love the simulated inlay. Show them this. There's a little bit of a drop back there. So you can feel the bump. Really nice. There's rivets here. Absolutely gorgeous. That is so cool, and I love that. That flag's actually backward, I think. That flag is the correct direction. That flag is backward. That's kind of weird. That is so cool.
The matte decals and stuff.
Yeah, everything is just really nicely done. These decals weren't compressed all the way down, it looks like. They might have missed the mark slightly on that. That should have been back a little bit. But I like that they picked this edge. Rather than having it overlay on the top, I'd rather have the extra here. And then you can see there's another 23-gram servo. So just absolutely great fit and finish. And then we have a hatch release. Okay, so that goes like that. That comes out, really easy to get in there, and there's your vector. Okay, so it looks like the battery is obviously gonna go right here. And as usual, the vector is just really easy to hook up. We've got throttle, elevator, rudder, S-bus, and then aileron. So yes, you can hook just the S-bus, I believe, if you're using the right type of receiver. And then there's some plugs down there that we're gonna be receiving from the wing. So I'm excited to see that. I don't typically do Velcro, but Velcro is a good idea for you if you don't have an alternative that works well. All right, so what's next? It looks like we've got landing gear finally, and that's everything in the box. The landing gear come fully assembled. A little disappointed to see that those things don't splay because this airplane looks like it deserves that. These are some super robust landing gear, goodness gracious. Yeah. Look at this metallic design here. This is crazy. Show the people. See this? They had this milled out of aluminum or something. And then, okay, so there probably is a little bit of play. Yeah, there is actually. Look at that. Whoa, that's cool. There actually is play, but it's not a lot. Now, these are gonna be harder tires. Again, very nice scale looking tires. This is exactly the way a Tundra tire would look, but I'd like to see these things be pneumatic or squishy because squishy tires are where it's at, if you ask me. But they do look gorgeous. Okay, so that is everything inside the box. So we're gonna get the plane stand out and we'll come right back. All right, YouTube, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing set up now. We've got it on a plane stand, and this is the horizontal stabilizer. So it needs to set in place here. Now we're not gonna worry about control arms yet. Linkages, which are sitting in that pile right there. Then we're gonna take the vertical stabilizer and rudder, and we're gonna come in here, and you have to kind of do this carefully because you have to thread this rudder into that little pocket there. And then there's a single screw that goes right here. It's the only screw on this that's right there. See that one? Give them a close up so they can kind of see what I'm talking about. That's the weird one. It's the only odd one out, okay? So that should go in there. And then just kind of line all that stuff up and push it together. And just simple as that. That is a really good fit. That is so really cool. Nice. Okay, so now we are gonna take care of the screws that hold that together. We want short ones, right?
Nope, those are the long ones actually.
Oh, okay. So the long ones. Now this is a 2mm driver. It is not provided. So you need a 2mm driver. So you need an Allen wrench set, or you can just do drivers like this. And we have loved these things. We had another subscriber bought these for us, and the stand actually. Tom got both of them for us, didn't he?
He did.
And it's so funny because he watched us struggle for years using a regular Allen wrench set. And then he's like, you gotta get these drivers. And honestly, of all the different tools that we've purchased, that we've either bought ourselves for this or had people buy us, this screwdriver is probably like the number 2, has probably been one of the best. Now, we also must say that the ones that we got from RTL fasteners have been good too, because they have ball ends on them. So, and they did include one of this size class, but it's very small. So, can I flip this over, you suppose?
Yep, you should be able to.
Yep, and then there's 2 more that go underneath.
Yes.
All right, so they go in right here.
I'm gonna come around so I can.
Both long on the bottom?
Both long, yep.
All right, so we just need to get good penetration so that everything stays together. And it's usually one of my goals. I think it's going. It's going. It's just like really, really long.
Yeah.
And there it is, guys. We're getting tightened up. And you can tell because you'll see a little bit of pucker in this foam. Watch this. Here we go. See the pucker? See how it's getting worse? Okay, and then same thing here. Look at the edges here. And when I say the edges, I mean this edge. What is this for?
There's a set of Phillips screws.
Yeah, but we need a small Phillips screwdriver.
That one fit.
In the little one? Seriously?
Seriously?
The silver one?
Oh, not in the silver one. No, I hadn't seen the silver one when I was getting tools out.
Okay, so we need this little one too. I was just gonna say, before I forget to tighten my screw, you're gonna need a precision screwdriver. So you can put that one in, it goes in from this side. This one's very hard to see because of the black finish, so just don't forget to do it. That's why I'm doing this right now, because I can see myself forgetting to do that. That's why I'm doing it right now, okay? Now, if you see from above, oops, see, that needs to be pushed down a little bit further, I think. Nope, it's all the way down. So that's just the way it is. So once you tighten this in here, then it is going to keep this from pulling out. I think it's just gonna compress it. Oh no, it's going right across the path. Can you give them a shot? You may have to turn the flash on. Here. See this? Oh, dang it, I gotta be able to see too to do this. Okay, see how it's going past? That's what you wanna see, okay? So basically that just locks this so it can't drop out. It's not gonna drop out like fall out of the aircraft, but it would drop down and then it would cause all sorts of problems. I just wanted to tighten that in because I'm gonna forget.
And I don't think that step is actually in the manual.
Yeah, this step is not in the manual. And goodness gracious, this is like really kind of challenging to screw in. I feel like we're almost there though. But anyway, so we've been super happy with the Arrows planes so far. They've gone together really nice. We haven't had many dyna moments. There was a couple that we built that we had a little bit of trouble lining up the wing, but we had on the Horizon counterpart pretty much the same problem. So I think it's just sometimes the way that whenever you have wings that overlap each other, you'll run into that once in a while. Also, there's a little bit of a scuff here, show them that. If that's the damage we had on our plane, then we're doing very good here.
Oh yeah.
See, you're gonna have to probably come down at an angle or they won't be able to tell what I'm showing. So that's one thing, that's one of the drawbacks that you have when you're dealing with foam planes, is that you can get scuffs and things like that. I'm pretty partial to trying to avoid scuffs and things like this, but some people just don't care, and that's fine. It's just to all their own. Man, this screw is so long. These ones are just crazy long, but it is definitely the right length. Okay, so that's tight, and my hand is like sore. I have like writer's cramp after that. So obviously we're gonna have control horns or control arms that go here with clevises on the end, here and here, okay? So we'll do those after we set up the radio so that we know that they're centered. So now we've got it upside down, might as well go ahead and put the landing gear in. So landing gear is super easy on this plane, as they are on many modern planes, but I really think this is weird that there's two different heights. So well engineered, also known as weird. Okay, so that drops in there. These little tabs drop in from behind. So everything is well supported. That is like really simple and robust. I'm just not used to seeing that. It's very strange. No, it's just weird because we're used to seeing, I almost think that the landing gear are gonna be too stiff, but I don't know. Maybe they're gonna be just right. Because it looks good, but I just don't want it to be too stiff. I want it to splay out a little bit because these things are designed to take a rough landing, right? So there's
three short screws.
3 short total, that's it.
Yes.
And these aren't screws, these are like a machine bolt. See?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing. Okay. And then if you take these out, you're gonna have float adapters. So this plane, I believe you can put floats on it. In fact, do they have a picture of it on the box? I don't see it. I believe they offer some floats for it. They are not included if they do, so my apologies if there isn't. It almost looks like you can put the landing gear on either position. What? Would that be like a nose gear configuration? No, because it almost looks like this would fit. No, it's different. It's different front and back. So when and if you decide to get the Husky floats, then you'll be using that back part. But now I hope there's floats, now that I've said it. Sorry, we're not supposed to talk about that yet. They haven't released them. Just kidding. Okay, so we got 3 of these to do. And then the next step is gonna be pretty much putting the wing on, getting the wires routed. And you can see, I mean, we've only probably got 15 minutes in building this. It's been pretty smooth operation. I do have help from the camera crew and my wonderful wife putting these things together. So it does go a little bit quicker than if you were doing it by yourself. But most of what we're doing is just keeping things tidy so that it doesn't look like a slobby pit when we're building stuff, correct?
Right. And actually, oh, are you gonna put the prop on?
Yeah, because the wing gets in the way. So
I know it does.
Now, for those of you that are not familiar with airplanes, I would highly recommend waiting to put a prop on for safety reasons, okay? I am not going to be a nanny here and tell you what is the best approach. It's up to you guys to keep yourself safe, but full disclosure, the people that get hurt in the hobby, one of the ways that people get hurt in this hobby is cutting their hands with props. So just be aware of it. Do your best to avoid being one of the statistics of people that cut their hands. And people that cut their hands cut them bad, just so you know. So hopefully that never happens on the video, since I've only cut myself numerous times on, not with props though.
What is that washer for?
I think it's to make up the difference in thickness, and I was just making sure that I needed it. Now we need to make sure this fits.
Ooh, that looks cool.
It does look sweet, but I'm not sure if I need this washer, so I'm gonna opt to try it with the washer and see if it fits. See, there's this extra washer. It came in a bag, so let's put it on.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't have spent the money to add that if it wasn't necessary.
You wouldn't think so.
Okay, so normally when you put on a prop, what you're gonna do is kind of align everything. You get yourself a screwdriver, something similar to this. It's just one of these Chinese screwdrivers that we get in one of the numerous models that we've reviewed over the years. And then you brace your prop, and then you spin it, and you torque it down really tight until it about cuts your hand off, which this prop is not sharp on the edge, which is nice. Okay, so then you just give it a couple spins, make sure everything looks like it's aligned. And then that feels like it's gonna line up perfect. So I don't know. It must be, you know, probably what it does is it probably makes up for a gap between this and the adapter. And so that prevents it from bottoming out and ripping that plastic out. So, do we need one of these machines?
One of the short screws.
The short ones?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna grab the 2mm driver. This is gonna be a very easy build.
Yeah, it is.
And by the way, look how small this thing is. That's nice. So if you have a tight place and you're trying to keep a plane that's big in a tight places, 1800mm is big. You're probably gonna need to pull wings off. If you have a small car, you're not gonna be able to get it without taking stuff all the way down. But I don't like taking things totally down ever for any reason, no matter what.
True.
Okay. Almost there. I love the matching colors. It's very good. Painted surfaces almost never match the plastic. And we are getting that from our hobby companies lately. So good job, hobby companies. That is absolutely gorgeous, isn't it?
Really cool, yeah.
Love the way this thing looks.
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing onward, we have to now assemble the wings. So the wings, of course, are going to have cables. That's a bit of a disappointment. I would like to see quick disconnects on this.
And it does recommend doing it upside down so you can lay it out, but you can do whatever you want.
I'm not really sure like why that would help.
The screws go in from the bottom of the wing up, so I don't know if they're just...
See how I'm digging this out? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all the way out. So then we have the wing joiner, which can be inserted first. Okay, so we'll just kind of give that a couple of spins just to help guide it through. And then it just seems like I'm gonna lay this down probably. Then I'm gonna, yeah, nothing too hard. Get it about halfway, doesn't need to be perfect. It's gonna bottom out in one of the wings first anyway. Okay, then there's this little box where all the wires are gonna pass through, okay? So this box is big, but it's still not as big as I would like it to be. I would like it to be so big that it doesn't need to exist because you've got quick disconnects here. Now, the funny thing about this model, if you look here, they have this pattern here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is probably where some of the models actually do receive a plug. Okay, so I'm gonna just feed this through. Now, this is labeled flap. This is labeled gear, which is strange because it's not gear, it's lights. And then this is labeled nothing. So we can assume that that is gonna be ailerons, okay? So then line up the fiberglass tube with the carbon fiber wing joiner and then just slide it on in. Then we're gonna drop these wires in one at a time. Preferably they'll fall where they need to fall, and I'm probably gonna need to trade you sides because I can't reach. Okay? And then you'll note that this thing, we'll just see if we can get lucky and put that through. Not looking forward to the next step of getting those out, but I'm just gonna try. Oh, that's actually super easy, look.
Oh, they're right
there. Look, I'm right there. That's awesome. I thought that was gonna be terrible, but then I forgot that that cover came off. I don't know why I thought that. That's pretty dumb. They're stuck up in here, so.
Hold the wing?
Yeah, if you can just hold the tip of the wing, that'd be helpful. Okay, so it slides in super easy. I'm gonna grab forceps. You don't need forceps, but I just like using them. And if you don't have a pair of forceps, before you buy a pair of needle nose pliers to use in this model environment, this is so much more helpful. So I want the people to see what I'm fighting here. So if you can go from here maybe, you see how they stuck into that little opening, okay? So now I've got the lights coming down, but I don't have anything else. So I have to kind of, I have to kind of coax them down. Now this is the first time, so I think what I'm gonna do on the other wing is I'm gonna straighten those out with my fingers first. Okay. Okay, so we'll just drop those down. They're ready to rock and roll for the next step. The next step, of course, is to land them on all the provided points. But for us, the next step is to reposition the plane just slightly so that this can sit. Okay, so it's sitting. The wheel hit. I can't believe how easy that wing went on. I thought it was gonna be terrible with those wires. Okay, so right here, they really rammed that in there, didn't they?
They did.
Well, somebody was having fun.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
So I'm gonna pull these things out here. Then I'm just gonna grab this, and this is what I was talking about. I'm gonna brace this. Now I normally wouldn't support a wing by the weight of the wing by the cable, so I'm gonna try to put it on my foot. And then I'm gonna pull hard. So I'm not supporting the weight. I'm not yanking on the whole mechanism inside because you'll pull it out. And I'm straightening that cable out. You see how hard I pulled? Same thing here. I'm not pulling on the connector, I'm pulling on the cable. So this one says flap. So I'm gonna go like this and I'm gonna pull really hard and just stretch it out because wire is malleable and ductile, which means you can stretch it out, okay? So there you have it. Now let's plop this on the other side. I'm gonna just spin the plane so that it's carefully not knocking anything off our counter. And then I'm just gonna slide it in, do the exact same thing. These things line up absolutely perfect though. They are jigged in absolutely flawlessly. Very, very happy. And guys, I built a lot of planes. And I love doing it, by the way. But I've built multiple Carbon Z Cubs, Carbon Z Carbon Z Cessna 150T. I've built lots of different planes with big wings that have joiners like this. And I must say, I am super impressed with how well this stuff fits together. That works so much better, by the way. Straightening those cables, see? Then I'm just gonna guide this in. Grab it about midway out of the wing here. Make sure you're not pinching your cables here. Make sure you're not pinching your cables here. And then just slip it in and you're ready to go. Super easy. Now, I'm gonna flip this plane over like the instructions called for now that we have the wires in the hole. You can always come back to that here in a minute. But just remember, if you have a plane that needs to come apart because it's huge, you want to consider whether or not that's gonna be a problem for your getting into your car, your truck, your van, whatever it is you're driving. So that's why we do this stuff, so that you guys can make your own minds up. We don't pretend to know what's gonna work best in your life. I mean, obviously a great plane is always gonna be a great plane. But the thing is, sometimes a great plane just doesn't work great in your application. Some of you have a small car, or maybe you have a small home that you live in, or you live in an apartment or something like that where you don't have anywhere to store them. And so we want to give you guys a real representation of what you're going to be dealing with. Do we use the short ones for this?
Yeah.
Oh,
for
good.
The wings for the machine screws, and then the black Phillips hold the
wing struts?
Wing struts on.
Okay, so we got that on there. And you'll note that we have plenty of room to get this tool in. Now this is where a ball end would be nice because you can come in at an angle like this. But I think it's gonna go. I think I have to press in just a little bit. See what I'm doing here? I'm grabbing from here and I'm spreading my whole hand on the wing surface because otherwise you will dent it. And you wanna spread as much out as you can and then just give it a little bit of a push. And then this screw should fall right in. And if it doesn't, oh, it's going. Yep, so it started. Look at that, how good that is. You may have better luck from over here now. I could be wrong. I'm usually wrong. When I tell the camera crew how to do our job, it's almost always wrong.
This is terrible over here. I can't believe you made me come over here.
Yeah, where you can see everything. Yep, I know, such a jerk. Hey,
it.
do me a favor with your left hand, hold that so I can push. See, now I'm pushing against this so that it collapses that joint. And this is just going actually super smooth. And I'm just waiting for some problem to come up. There hasn't been a single problem with this build. It's been like the easiest build we've done in probably months. And honestly, we've had a lot of easy builds from Arrows.
We have.
Arrows, plural.
Yes. Not whatever.
Whatever I say all the time, Arrows.
Yeah.
Some people were making fun of me in the comments and it hurt my feelings.
Oh,
It didn't hurt my feelings at all, actually.
so when I made fun of you, it didn't hurt your feelings, but when they did, it
No.
did.
Just random people that I don't care about. Yeah, those people.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
the
now
ones
where
that
am I
make fun of me are the ones I don't care about,
Now
just so
where
you
am
know.
I supposed to go?
Not the ones that do. Well, you could go to where the sink is. How about that? Because then you'll be able to see better when I do this last one. I mean, people like to see the penetration. I mean, you want to get the tip.
Well, it's true.
Otherwise, people get all bent out of shape and they're screaming at their camera like, I want to see it slide in the hole, you know, and that's what we do here. So, all right, here it is. Now, if you could do me such a huge favor as to push the wingtip toward my belly. A little bit more, there you go, let go. Got it now. Actually, do that more, There you go. Because now that closes the joint as we're tightening this. And let's give them a shot of what we're doing. You hold still, I'll hold the camera for a sec. Okay, so people at home, you see what we're doing here? Camera crew is holding, she is holding this wingtip and pushing it toward my belly, which is here. And that is closing ever so slightly that joint. Now push gently. See how it's spinning the aircraft now? Because they're connected now.
Right.
Before they were connected, sometimes you have to give a little bit of leverage on the end of this lever arm. And then that closes your joint and then you can get perfect alignment. It's super easy. So, all right, great, great, great. That was like way easy.
Wait, don't forget the wing struts.
The wing struts? Are you suggesting that I need to put my black screws in there?
I was...
Good. Thank you. Black screws. My camera crew got me a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, which is way too big. So I'm gonna go back to China screwdriver. So really, we didn't need the number 2 Phillips screwdriver. It's just way overkill. Sometimes she grabs for the larger ones. So here it is.
What's the biggest one?
Just tighten this in. Okay, perfect. So if you guys need to take this wing off, I want you to be aware, give me the number 2. Let's try the number 2.
So who was right?
I didn't say you were right. This might be a 1.5. This might be a 1.5, seriously. Actually, that was surprisingly better, but honestly, I just think it's just not a good fit.
I think it was right.
No, it's still not right though. I don't want to tell people wrong. Just to prove your point that you think you're right. No, it's the 2 works better. But there is such a thing, and I had somebody explaining this to me at one point, that there's like a Japanese size class, and they do things a little bit different. Okay, I need your help again.
Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do. We need to lift up the wing from the center, and I need to prevent the plane from pivoting slightly.
Okay.
Okay?
You ready?
Very slightly, yep. Okay, should just, once I get it started, it should be golden.
Okay.
That did work better with the number 2 though. The number 2 is better than the Chinese screwdriver.
You're
But anyway, not all Chinese screwdrivers are made the same.
That's true.
We've had some really nice China screwdrivers, and we've had some that have like literally blown up in my hand. And I'm like, I just broke the handle with my hand. Okay, let go. Perfect. Woo, there it goes. That plane is gorgeous, guys.
Yeah, it is.
That is just really pretty. I love the trim on it. I wasn't sure when I first saw it, but now that I'm seeing it in person, I love the orange and black.
I like it because, you want to put that on so we can see it?
I do.
I like it because it's different.
You like it because it's different.
It's not red or blue.
It's easy to pick up. That is a big plane,
That is
guys.
really cool.
Okay, so I'm 6'1". So let's see what we have here. The wing struts make it a little easier to hang on to, but they do pull apart, so be careful in the middle, okay? So I'm trying not to lay it on, put all the weight on it. So it's almost as tall as me,
Yep.
very close. Love the size, love the look. It feels pretty light without the battery, without the receiver. Obviously the receiver is gonna add almost no weight. And then we have, of course, the control arms and the 2 antennas to do. We'll do these after we set up the radio. These ones are gonna get put on the rudder and elevator. And then these 2 are gonna go up here and they just clip in. They are not gluing, which is nice. And I gotta say, these antenna really make a plane look cool, but they are a real pain for transport. So just be aware, when you choose to put an antenna on, about the time you get this on, you're gonna immediately need it the other direction. Meaning you're gonna have to flip it on its belly or on its back. Whichever direction the antenna is going, you're gonna have to do that side. That looks sweet. I love the wooden prop. That looks gorgeous. Absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to see the lights on it. Now, what I was saying when I picked this up is that these struts will pop out while you're lifting, so be careful if you support the plane by that. All right, so the instructions were helpful, but they did miss a detail on the tail dragger wheel. So don't forget that screw. And then it looks like everything else is pretty straightforward. They did not mention anything about the washer on the spinner, so if ours blows up in glorious excitement, then you'll know. And we're 80 to 90 centimeters back, or millimeters, not centimeters. That would be like the whole plane. So we're gonna grab, let's spring for the nice ones today.
Ooh.
We have an orange. Should I do orange?
Could. That would look good on the...
Except it's gonna be really hard to see. Yeah, it's gonna be super hard to see.
That's fine.
Okay, so I am gonna mark the bottom of the wings with calipers at 80 to 90 millimeters. That's what it says for the center of gravity. So we're gonna use these. We're gonna put this plane upside down, and sometimes these things can come off of this plane stand, and I've noticed that mine have gotten loose over the last year or so. I'm thinking I'm gonna take some hot glue and put it in there, just thicken it up, give it a little bit more bite. Because when we move this, they pop off, which is really frustrating. Okay, I'm gonna flip this on its belly again. And then this will make it super easy to mark the CG. So the CG may already be marked. Sometimes you get that. So I'm gonna turn this thing on. This came from another subscriber, thank you. Which subscriber?
Danny.
Danny. Thank you, Danny. Okay, there it is. So
80 to 90.
Huh?
80 to 90.
It's not 69?
It's not.
Oh, dang it. Okay, so we're gonna go 80 to 90. Wow, I got it perfect. That's a miracle. Then there's this little set thing here. All right, so we're gonna go from the leading edge back, and it's right where the spar is. So you almost don't need to mark it, but I'm gonna mark it anyway, okay? So I just made a dent in there, just a little bit out from the edge. I'm gonna try to go out 2 simulated wing ribs. And when I say simulated wing ribs, you see these little bumps? That's what I mean, there's a wing rib here. Okay, so I'm gonna loosen this thingy, then I'll walk this out to 90. So guys, we have some pretty exciting stuff around the bend for you. Really exciting for me, even more exciting for the camera crew.
Now they're gonna be disappointed.
But the thing is, it's coming soon, and you will hear more about it in the very near future. In fact, you may have already heard about it. Okay, so there's 90 millimeters here and 80 millimeters here. So you can see those marks clearly. I kind of did a really poor job of marking this on the wing rib since it's not on the wing rib, so I just went right next to it. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Brian, that is the ugliest way to mark the center of gravity, and you would be correct. And yet I've done it hundreds of times and I've never thought twice about it.
Don't care.
You know why? Because it works perfectly and it's easy and I can feel them with the pads of my fingers. When I'm balancing them on my fingertips, I never have trouble remembering it. And there are a million ways to skin a cat. This is just an easy way of doing it. Now, obviously this is gonna be quite nose heavy right now, or tail heavy, because there's no battery in there, okay? So don't be surprised by that. It is going to be very tail heavy before you get your battery in there, because you got a 6S 3200 going in if you're using the exact battery that we used. Now, we'll probably review this with both the smart battery and with the Arrows provided battery that they sent for this. Now, this doesn't normally come with the battery. You have to order it separately. So just keep in mind, these are considered plug-and-fly planes. Plug-and-fly planes need a receiver, and a receiver is, of course, not gonna need stabilization or safe, because the Vector in this case, if you're in North America, I believe you get them with the Vector. I believe if you're outside of the certain territories, they might come without. So for now, just check and know if it comes with the Vector, you can get a 620, an AR620, much more economical than the AR630, which is the antennaless or the internal antenna setup. Now, if you get the AR631, then you would get the single antenna, and they call it, it's like it's not full telemetry, it's partial telemetry, flyby telemetry. And if you go to the AR637T, then you would get full telemetry. Barometer will give you Vario, and then of course you've got the nice little battery voltage measurement as well, so you would get telemetry of your pack voltage, which is super nice. So what are we gonna do next? We are going to get into the radio setup, and just so you guys know, we always like to show you if we have extra screws, so no, you didn't make a mistake, but they gave us one of each extra, which is really nice. And then yes, I do keep everything because I'm a hoarder. So I did just keep those things, because you never know when you're gonna need that screw.
And all the bags.
You could probably build a small house or village with the screws that we had left over from all the planes we had.
We could.
So the next step for us is to probably go ahead and get those wires landed, actually even before we do the receiver.
Okay.
So since that's sort of part of the build, why don't we do that right now?
Okay.
And then we'll do the radio setup separately. Radio setup is simple. As you can hear, the smart charger is chiming at us to let us know that we're done. I am noticing that when I release the hood, there's not really any longer a good place to grab on. So I am going to do what some of you will think is just a really, really, really ugly way of doing what you could do other ways. And what I'm gonna do, are you ready? This is gonna get me a lot of hate from people that say this is a beautiful plane, and it is a beautiful plane, because it is a beautiful plane. That's why they would say that.
But you know what's not beautiful? Is having dents where you have to pick it up too.
Exactly. So I'm gonna push back on this. And remember, you're always doing this with your lanyard swinging around in the wind. And for those of you that don't know what it's like to have a lanyard swinging around in the wind, just imagine what it would be like to have a big heavy thing swinging around between your legs in a dangerous area around a prop that is about to start spinning past. What? So anyway, if you look at this, that's exactly the way it is too.
I'll take your word for it.
So then you can pull this off, but you'll never ever know that this is here, except for that we just put it in front of you on YouTube. So, all right, coming back to reality. So the next thing we need to do is we need to join the flaps and then plug them into the vector. So the vector is way back there. Holy cow, that's gonna be fun to plug into. See that?
Yeah.
See how it's way back there? Whoa, I can see the light. How the heck are we gonna get back there? Uh-oh.
You're fine.
Okay, so, all right, so the next step is I need to figure out how we're gonna do this, because this is gonna go into the receiver. Oh, I know why, because the flaps don't go to the vector, they go straight to the receiver. Yep. Is this the first plane we've had with flaps with a vector receiver? Or with a vector involved?
Yes.
I think the answer you're looking for is yes. Okay, so we're gonna plug in this Y cable here, brown to brown. Then I'm gonna find the other flap first. Okay, so here's the other flap. This is gonna be kind of a pain to undo in the field. So if you're planning on flying this plane and then taking it apart each time that you transport it, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you put an extension cable in here so that you only have to do it once, and then you can get it out here where your hands are easy to get to. Okay, so this one we didn't stretch out like we should have. And so we'll just do this. And I'm just trying to be careful not to screw up all the finish here, because that's gonna look like crap when you start breaking up that black paint and the white shows through. Okay, so just be careful. Okay, so flaps and flaps. Okay, so we'll just leave this out to the side. That'll reach perfect. Now, the gear are coming down here now. The gear as in lights. And no, don't think that you hook those up to your gear and then you can control it. That's not the way the servos work. That's pulse width modulation. So if you can just imagine there is a Y cable that says gear right here. Okay, see it says gear. Actually, you probably see ear. Actually, you see nothing. Go to the other side there, camera crew. See this? This says gear here. Can you see it now? Gear, 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 gear. Gear, gear, okay? So this is one of those planes where we just can't show what we're doing very easy. We apologize to you, but we're gonna be blocking your view pretty bad. I'm blocking my view if it makes you feel any better. So the gear are gonna plug into that thing. So what I need to do is I need to basically get this thing reached back up, and I can see that it says brown is toward the bottom of the plane. And so black is gonna line up with brown. So all you have to do is just slide that in sideways. You're gonna have to turn on that light or you won't see any of this, I'm guessing. And I don't know what direction's the best way to film on this one. Oh my goodness, this would be terrible to do every time. So, arrows, plural. Yeah, you're gonna wanna definitely use an extension cord here, okay? Because this is gonna be not very fun to have to do every time. So if you're not taking it apart, no harm, no foul. Like for me, it's not gonna be an issue, we're not gonna take it apart. But if you are one of those lucky ones that has to take your plane apart every time you take it out, you will absolutely want to. See how I can lock this? That makes it a lot easier. Okay, I'm really glad I got my forceps out. So black needs to go toward the camera. And then it blinds me. I can't even see.
Let me turn it on.
No, not that. I'm just saying like my hands are in the way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's 3 pins in there. You're only trying to hit the 2 that are to the right in this case. Then once you get them lined up, you're kind of in the dark. Like you literally can't see what you're doing, no matter how good you are. Okay, so that's plugged in. You can see the brown and the black line up and then the red's in the center, so you're good there. Remember, that's not a controlled connection. It's just basically power, okay? So now there's another Y cable that's way longer. So I don't really understand the rationale behind including, oh, what? Yeah, it is way longer. I just also grabbed another incorrect cable. So this is for the ailerons. Now, why did they give us a long one for the ailerons, but not for the gear? I don't get that. It seems sort of counterintuitive. Okay, so brown is gonna go onto this side, closer to the camera, and then So this is, brown is ground, red is your plus voltage for DC voltage, so plus, minus, okay? Then this is your signal for the pulse width modulation. That's the actual signal that tells the servo where it needs to be positionally as it pertains to what the radio says, or in this case, the radio and then the vector. Gosh, this cable is way back here though. I know why they put the vector where they put it, but it just makes it a little bit challenging to get these wires landed. Okay, so that's lined up correctly. And put this up here like that. Slip it between the lips where it belongs. And just get good penetration. Make sure you stick it all the way in. Otherwise, the lips won't close. It will be a problem. Okay, so I'm just gonna slide that back. Okay, so just take this, take a nice big handful and just squish it back. And disconnect all your cables every time you do it. That was just a joke, guys. Don't do that. Don't disconnect your cables. Okay, stick it between the lips, all the way in. There it is. Oh, dang it. See, if you go far enough, then it'll bite. See, and I didn't stick it far enough, and so it didn't bite. See, now that it's bit, it's less likely to come out because these bite points, show them a close-up of the teeth. See the teeth biting? Mm-hmm. Okay, these teeth were not bit around the connection, okay? All right, cool, so now that we've got that in there, that was super smooth and easy and not a pain at all. Now we need to get our receiver ready to rock and roll. So we're gonna pause and we will be right back momentarily with the radio setup. All right, so we're gonna do radio setup now. Radio setup requires us to actually plug all the stuff into what we're gonna be using. Because this has the vector stabilizer, we can get away with the AR620, which is awesome because you still have a high quality receiver that is gonna give you good range and all that good stuff that you expect from Spectrum. But then we have the vector. I don't know why I do that. The vector will provide good quality stabilization and auto leveling. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the radio system set up, and then remember, we do have to put our linkages on the elevator and rudder, but there's no sense in doing it yet because we haven't centered the servos. Now you can use the XBC battery checker to do that if you wish, but we're just gonna do it the easy way, which is to set up this little receiver. Look how small that is.
I know, that's crazy.
You wanna show them, camera crew? It's beautiful. Ooh, just like a hand model.
Yep.
So the next step is we're gonna take this thing and we're gonna set up our profile on the NX8. If you're thinking about doing a transmitter, think no further than the NX8 for the moment. It's gonna do all the stuff you want. You don't have to break the bank and get the NX10 necessarily unless you know for a fact you're gonna be doing sophisticated radio setup of 8 channels plus safe and or AS3X, in my opinion. We have one time in the last year run out of channels on this, and we ultimately got it taken care of, A-okay. So my recommendation is the NX8 still. If you have money to blow and you don't mind spending it, then buy the iX12 or the iX20, obviously. So first step is you can hit these 2 buttons at the same time, the back and cancel, and then you can scroll down to add new model, acro, create. Takes a little bit of time, by the way. I wonder if that has a function of how many models we have.
I think so, because I feel like
it takes longer now. Okay, so model select is where you would go back in if you wanted to change to a different one. Model type, this is gonna clear it if you switch, by the way. And then model name, this is where we type in the name, 71st model, colon, space, and yes, you can modify these values, and I believe you can still sort the models in the model menu on the NX. Okay, I'm using a legacy keyboard, full disclosure. So we highlight the first character and then we scroll to whatever it is, which this is the 1800 millimeter Husky Ultimate, not to be confused with the regular Husky. Okay, so you scroll, you click, and then we'll be back in a second. All right, so we have the Husky Ultimate 1800 millimeter. Then we'll just beat back Then we have the aircraft type. This is where you're gonna switch to one aileron, one flap, and then a normal tail. You can tell from looking at the plane and the way the servos are set up. And then I'm just gonna change this to a plane that's more appropriate. Like that looks pretty good. I don't know that we're gonna do a flight modes, and so I'm not sure if we need to do any channel assign either, but we will find out shortly. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is set up a throttle cut. I'm gonna scroll in and then flip, switch H, acknowledge the entry. And as you can see, the throttle is not changing. Twofold, you can see it's not changing. When I undo the throttle cut, the throttle does change, okay? So that's pretty simple. Then I can go to flap system. I'm gonna set it to switch B, which is up here. And I don't know how it's gonna be arranged yet, so I'm gonna just kind of err on the side of caution for that because you don't wanna overdrive the servos into something. So a good way to do that is to set to a kind of like a middle ground area. One of them is probably gonna be plus 100 and one of them is probably gonna be minus 100. Okay, so once you get to those two extremes, then you can set that one to 0, something like that. Okay, and then there's gonna be a correction factor, something like this. Okay, but you'll note that flap and auxiliary 2 are both changing right now because there is a tie between switch B and auxiliary 2 by default. But flaps have been assigned to auxiliary 1, okay? So the way to resolve that is you can go into system setup, disconnect RF, go down to channel assign, and then you can change it here. See how it says auxiliary 1 is NA? I'm just gonna set this one to NA too. Inhibit. See? Auxiliary 2. So now when I go to monitor mode, it's just the flaps moving. Cool. Now I'm gonna click, scroll back down to flaps, and we'll finish the setup on flaps. Click normal. I'm gonna set it to 2 seconds of deployment speed. So now, as you can see, when we change the setting, it takes about 2 seconds to get from here to there. Okay? And then the elevator also corrects at that same time frame. It's one of the most helpful tools on the Spectrum setup. Now, I'm gonna be in the middle setting until such a time as we are started. Then I'm gonna put it into the home position or the flight position because I don't want my elevator down when I'm doing my correction mechanically to get it level. Do you understand, people? Good. Mixing, we might actually do a little bit of rudder, aileron to rudder, just a little bit. I don't understand the stupid curve thing. I'm gonna turn it on and I'm gonna set it to, let's do like 15, okay? So when I move the ailerons, you can see the rudder also moves a little bit. It goes the same direction. So minus 100 becomes minus 16. Plus 100 or plus 99 becomes plus 14, okay? So that's pretty cool. So we'll do that, and then we may not actually want that, but we'll see how it works. Then on the timer, they didn't tell us the time, did they? Mm-mm. Okay, so timer, I'm just gonna go with 5 minutes for now. That's probably about right to start. I'm gonna turn one timer on. So when I go past the threshold of 25, then it's gonna start the timer. It's gonna keep counting. At 1 minute, I want nothing, right? Mm-hmm. At 20 seconds, whoops. At 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want voice to count down. And at expiration, I want tone and vibrate. And then every minute thereafter, we'll have a tone. Clear the timer because we don't actually want it running. Now let's talk about dual rates in Expo. Dual rates in Expo are pretty simple in my application. I use this switch, switch F. So I'm gonna make the assignment to, excuse me, accidentally did switch E. So switch F. In the 0 position, or the most Expo, or the most sensitive, I'm gonna put only 5% Expo. Then in the middle setting, I'm gonna set it to 10. Then in the top, in the most Expo setting, the least sensitive, I'm gonna put it to 20, and I'm gonna drop the rates down to like 90, okay? So I'm gonna start in the middle. If I don't have enough, if it's too touchy, I can go up. If it's not touchy enough, I can go down. Okay, so now we're gonna duplicate that on all 3 axes of control. 5, 10, and 20. And then we'll drop the rates down a little bit on the most Expo. Okay, so 100% rates with 5% Expo, 100% rates with 10% Expo, 90% rates with 20% Expo. Now what does Expo do? Expo softens the sticks in the middle. That's what all these people say. Of course, that means nothing to you if you're new as a pilot. So here's my recommendation. Take a plane, do exactly what I'm doing, and then fly it. You will feel the difference. The feel is incredibly different. So if you want to exaggerate that so that you can learn a little bit more, set it to 10, 20, and 50, and leave your rates at 100 and just feel how it feels. And then maybe set your rates on the next go around, land, change your rates from 100 to 75 to 50, and you'll understand. Rates are simple. All the way down, elevator goes all the way up. Okay? All the way up, elevator goes all the way down. Let go, it goes to the middle. 50% rates means instead of going all the way to here, it goes to here, halfway, even though your stick is fully deployed down. Okay? Or if it was 75%, it'd be 75%. When you let go of the stick, it still goes center. Okay? You pull back, it goes to 75%. You let go, it goes there. You pull it all the way back, it goes to 75% if your rates are at 75%. Dual rates and Expo are tied together in my application on switch F because they have a similar function. Okay, so the most deadened sticks, we're gonna reduce from 100% to like 90%. So it's not a big change, but it is a change. It's a 10% change in the amount of output. The reason I defer to Expo more than I do rates is that Expo allows you to, oh crap, there's a tree. Oh crap, there's a tree. Oh crap, there's a tree. And you can get your 100% output. So if you need to get it out of a strange attitude, you still have the full control, but you have to bring that stick all the way to the edge. When flying radio controlled airplanes, it's pretty uncommon that you actually go to the exterior perimeter of your stick position. It just doesn't happen that often unless you're doing cornholes, which would be like this or something. So throttle cut's on, by the way. Building good habits is a good idea. So the next step is, now that we know what channel is what, we are going to pause and come right back. All right, so now that we have everything set up on the radio, we can just scroll one click over to the right and we can see the monitor mode. So that's gonna tell us exactly where to land all of our surfaces. Okay, so what do I mean by landing all of our surfaces? Brian, what are you talking about? You're using that weird terminology that nobody understands. Okay, the first thing you're gonna do, I laid that right on top of my transmitter. So you're gonna take your transmitter, and we are gonna have to bind this soon, but for now, we can start plugging things in. So what do we have? Oh, we also need to set up a mode switch. I'm thinking we'll probably just have auto leveling and AS3X, or it's not actually AS3X, it's stabilization. So we'll have like auto leveling here and then stabilization here. Now, you can actually do auto leveling, stabilization, and then no stabilization. Or you could do stabilization, no stabilization, auto leveling, or whatever you want. You can make your assignments to do whatever you want. All you have to do is make sure that you're commanding a channel, which we're not with this, and we are with this. So we know that's gear, okay? So I don't know which way it's gonna respond. It doesn't matter, we'll find that out. So just so you know, gear is either minus 100 or plus 100. Then the 0 would be the middle step where there's no stabilization or auto leveling, okay? So they have stability mode, agility mode, and some other thing. I don't know. It's not very descriptive. I hate it. That's the one thing I don't like about the Vector, is I feel like the terminology they use is very confusing. It's not very clear. Why not just say stabilization, auto leveling? I don't get it. Probably because it's like patented or something. All right, so that was the first one we happened to touch, which is S-Bus PPM mode, okay? So this says minus plus S. Right there, it's molded into the end. It's very small. So S is signal. So on channel 5, we just talked about that. This is where this is going to plug in, okay? Then, what's this? Aileron. Ailerons, I look down at my controller, it says channel 2. On monitor, channel 1, channel 2. So the brown goes down on channel 2, and we just slide this in and get full penetration. Do stick it all the way in. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, then throttle. Throttle, of course, is going to go to throttle. It is weird that the stabilizer receives throttle, but it does. I think the reason they do it that way is because they pull the BEC voltage maybe through that channel, but they could pull through any of them, so I don't really understand that. Okay, throttle. Then flaps, which are totally bypassing the circuit altogether, going straight to the wing. Flaps are on channel, what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 in our case. Then the yellow goes up and the brown goes down. Okay, so we're just gonna slip it in, and this one's just like really tight, so I have to squish it in hard. All right, then we have rudder and elevator. So elevator is here. So just grab that and get that ready. Elevator's on channel 3. So it looks like channel 3, and they're numbered here. I don't know if you can see that as I'm working right in front of my thumb. But I usually don't number. I don't worry about the number, I just count them on the menu structure. Okay, so this one's the rudder. So if you set up the same acro models all the time, you end up using pretty much the same model, the same wiring on most of your Spectrum gear. So you can see kind of how that goes. I'll just kind of flip the cables for you so you can see. And then you've got, of course, the bind plug here, which we don't need because we have a bind button. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's a push button. Okay, so we'll be able to bind that here shortly. So the next thing we need to do is, this is the time where we start doing our refresher course on safety. Throttle cut, stick down. These sticks are spring loaded on a mode 2 transmitter. This is set up as a mode 2. You can actually set these up as a mode 1 or mode 3 or mode 4. Almost nobody uses those other modes. We have 2 different batteries ready to rock and roll. In this case, we'll go ahead and take the Arrows battery because that's what was sent with this one. We're gonna get the Velcro lifted up. Okay. These are the mid-grade strap style. So nothing, you know, like an incredibly terrible or great, but they aren't the kind that rip in half. So that's always good. And they are very big. It looks like you get a huge battery in there. Huge. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna get this, looks like this, oh boy, don't drop your Velcro down. That is bad if you do. Let's see how this works. Camera crew, see that? Let me just throw that out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you see? Then you can cinch this down right onto the battery. I usually recommend getting one kind of started, and then I'll come down here and grab this tail. They are free, that is a very big factor, and it makes it a lot easier to use these straps when they're free so that they aren't glued underneath the battery tray. Sometimes they are, and it's very annoying. Okay. So I'm just gonna pull that super tight and just drop that down. Okay, so then you can see there's still a little bit of play, but it's okay because we're not going out to fly. As you can see, it's dark.
A little bit.
Okay, so we have lights, but not that much light. Okay, and secondly, we need to hook up our elevator. So let's remember that here in a minute. So we have a prop here. Where's the prop gonna go? The prop is gonna go like this, okay? It's not gonna like fly across the room unless you break it with a hammer, okay? So what do you do to protect yourself? Keep your control out of the prop area so that you don't have to be in the danger zone if it would start up, which it shouldn't. Throttle cut's on. throttle sticks down, powering off. But you're not supposed to power off your transmitter. You are when you're binding, okay? So you can also do a bind mode with this on. Since this receiver is not bound to anything yet, it's really not a big deal to just go into bind mode live. But you have to actually get yourself far enough back. We have a hard time filming this because it's hard to see everything happen at once, but in person, it always works perfect on the first try. If you're doing it for a video on YouTube, then it will take 7 tries.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you can see we got our battery here, and the plug for the battery is all the freaking way back here. You see that? How did that get all the way back there? So I'm just gonna grab it from the ESC end, and it's very long, it's super easy to get it out here. See? Word of wisdom, wood props do break if you hit the concrete with them. Okay, they do not break when they hit your skin, so be careful. All right, so listen, do you see the way I'm straddling this plane? Okay, and I know some of you are cringing right now. Take your prop off, it's only 2 seconds. Okay, you do that, okay? Ooh, beautiful. Wow. Okay, I'm securing the plane. I'm waiting, nothing started. I haven't lost my hands yet. This isn't beeping or flashing, that's the ESC beeping. I'm gonna press this so that if it were to start, I can hold the plane and I'm out of the prop. So now I'm pressing that once and it's flashing. Now I'm gonna walk away from the plane. We both know how to duck. We practice this off camera every time. Throttle cut, throttle sticks down. This might not be far enough. Pressing and holding the bind button up here. Now pressing and holding the power switch, now letting go. Binding. Bind like I said. So we're gonna go even further back. Now watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna click, scroll down to bind, and then I'm gonna bind this way. Got it on the first try. Bind complete. Now it's auto configuring for the AR620. All right, so now all the systems are live. So the first thing you do when you get a plane ready to go is you test the throttle cut. So get the plane in a safe attitude. Make sure you can control the plane. Make sure you're not gonna get hit by the prop. Turn off the throttle cut. All the way up, all the way down. You'll note that it's still beeping. That's generally not a good thing. Throttle cut's on. At this point, I'm going to suspect that we'll have problems, so I'm gonna be a little bit careful. Now I'm gonna unplug my battery. It's unplugged. I can take my receiver at this point and just lay it kind of out of the way. We might need to rebind if it doesn't work. Did we plug in throttle wrong? It does not appear that we did, okay? We are definitely getting power to it, but the power comes from the ESC back into the vector and into the Spectrum AR620 in this case, through the BEC, the battery eliminator circuit, okay? So that's what produces power to run the servos, and the ESC produces power to run the motor. So we're gonna just try this again. We are now bound. So now, and from here forth, throttle cut on, throttle stick down, timer cleared, and you treat it like it could come alive because it is bound. So I'm gonna just keep my hands out of the way, and I'm gonna keep, you see how the butt of my hand is here? If this plane started, it's gonna wanna pull forward, so I have it protected. Plug it in, wait. Okay, you'll note it's still beeping, but the vector armed. Now we wait again. We hear that the ESC has stopped beeping. The ESC actually doesn't beep, it's the motor that beeps, but it comes through the ESC. Those lights are awesome. Okay, elevator up, elevator down, ailerons, rudder, which is not hooked up obviously, and takeoff flaps. So we had that right, good. Landing flaps. So we're going back to the home position. Now we're gonna, with the throttle cut on, we're gonna secure the plane like this, and then we're gonna test the throttle. It doesn't work, that's what we want. Now throttle cut's going off, so we're armed. That's half power, throttle cut's on, and retested. Okay, so we have tons of power, and that means we can take this thing, since it's just a regular receiver, it doesn't have stabilization or anything, and the vector is already glued down, and watch this complicated procedure. I like that. Just stuff it in there.
Yep.
Wherever it goes and slithers is neither here nor there in our case. Okay, so now the next step is we're gonna go ahead and put this on if it'll fit. And I chose to put the battery vertical just out of happenstance. It wasn't like I thought that was for sure the only way to do it. And I've picked a way that it won't fit, of course. So you're gonna have to put that battery sideways to make it fit. So we'll just undo these batteries. See how I stuck that to itself a little teeny bit? That'll keep it from falling down for us this time. Okay. Nice big battery tray, easy to work with. A battery tray that is hard to load means a plane that won't be flown. It is crazy. You can have a sweet plane that you will never fly because it's a pain to put batteries in. And I know you guys don't believe me, but wait till it happens to you and you'll be like, that guy was right. I have some sweet planes that are hard to put batteries in, and you know what? I never fly them. Because I don't want to hassle with it. I want to fly like when I have 7 minutes free. Now, I am in maybe a slightly unique circumstance in that regard, but you know, we're always up against the wire like all the time in my life for everything. Still doesn't quite fit, so I'm gonna slide it back. Let's hope the CG works out with this clear, because otherwise I'm gonna have to carve a little bit off of this to be able to get that in, that fit. Okay, all right. Now, CG's already marked, throttle cut has already been tested. I'm on the front hole and we're perfect. Now on the back hole, we're slightly nose heavy. I feel like that battery needs to go back just a hair so that we split the difference. So I'm gonna push that, pull it up. I'm gonna move the battery back so it's just lined up perfect right on there. And I'm actually hitting the vortex or the vector. Why can I not say that right? I don't understand. Okay, so that's right on the edge. Slide this back in so it drops down. Now we'll retest. And for those of you that are gonna ask me, how do I know where the battery goes? Guess and check. So slightly tail heavy attitude, slightly nose heavy attitude. So in between the two holes, it's perfect. And sometimes if you get right between the two holes, that's where you wanna be. So now we need to hook up these things, and we have a needle nose pliers ready to rock. We can use that to hold these things and then pre-spin. Oh, these things spin super like butter.
Oh.
I didn't even need these things. Okay, see, look. Super easy. Sometimes those things are near impossible to turn. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to establish if we're in auto leveling or if we're in stabilization. How do we know that? We take the plane, we verify throttle cut, and then we move it. We are in stabilization. We're still in stabilization. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm changing the gear and it's not changing the output because it's still stabilizing. So that means one of a few things. Either I've done something wrong or there's something wrong. The vector comes with a manual. There's some in Chinese and there's some in English. It looks like they're suggesting, you know, come over here. So I don't see, do you see anything that's out of the ordinary there? Because they're suggesting channel 5, not that it matters. We happen to be on channel 5 in this case.
We've never had to like really set it up.
Stability mode is the vector will return the, stability is auto leveling, okay? When you let go of the sticks, it's gonna auto level. Dynamic mode, this is no stabilization. Direct mode, or wait, dynamic mode is stabilization. Direct mode is basically nothing, okay? It's strange though, because I'm sure we're plugged into the right port. Let's double check. Okay, so where do we check? Don't forget, this isn't magnets. You have to actually release it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the receiver, wherever it went, yonder in here. And don't worry, that's just our timer going off. Okay, so we're obviously plugged in to S-Bus mode. Okay, so that's good. And there's no more cables that I can see
The red light is flashing on the vector. What does that say it should be?
Oh, you know what? Let's look at that. It stopped flashing.
So flip it upside down. Plane.
Yeah, we'll see if it's auto leveling. I'm gonna put my canopy on though first.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it that much easier to control. Okay, so this is auto leveling. And off, but still stabilized. Good call, camera crew. There is an intermediate level, or there's not an intermediate level. There's all the way on, full auto leveling, stabilization, auto leveling and stabilization, then stabilization. You can set up a third, which is nothing. I don't use it, so I'm always gonna fly stabilized. Okay, so now that we know what mode we are in for stabilization and auto leveling is currently in the all the way forward. I don't like that. We need to flip it because I'm gonna recommend to use something, if you're new to this at all, make it so it's always the same. See how this switch is forward? I want that to be auto leveling and I want this to be stabilization, okay? So I'm gonna go to servo setup, travel, scroll over to reverse, and I'm gonna reverse the gear channel. Now it's gonna be correct for what I expect. Throttle cut is still on and tested. Now it's auto leveling, and I can tell from just where I had the switch. Trying to find the quickest route to level. Okay, now you do not wanna set up your elevator at this point. You want that off.
Yep.
Now, another trick, you could use a book or something like that if you had books. We're gonna use this thing. I want my elevator to be level and true, and it shouldn't matter, but you can actually hold this up for filming reasons. Okay, so I don't know if we're just able to bounce it on its nose like we do with some planes, but since it doesn't move, except for to counter the change in state, once you get it where it is and it's holding still, you're okay to do this now. Okay, so, oh shoot, I didn't pay attention to where they wanted these holes.
Oh.
They show this in the manual, folks. So when you're control horns and servo arm settings, so this is the generic one here, okay? Which tells you kind of how that goes. But then this is where they actually want things on this particular aircraft. So the elevator is supposed to go into the third hole out, and the rudder is supposed to go into the third hole out as well, okay? So we're gonna check that now. Now you're gonna get more output, more throw if you go to the fourth hole out because it'll be a longer travel. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna get more controllability. It's not necessarily gonna be better control. It will definitely move more. Are you kidding me? No way. Okay, so we only gotta turn it like probably 3 turns. And see, I'm just looking now to see if that's straight. Okay, so once it's straight, then we're good. But you wanna check a couple of different angles on these bigger planes because this is a thick surface, okay? So then when you're ready, you can just snap it on. Now I'm gonna use this for the sake of showing that it can be done, but we also have a tool for that too. So I'm just gonna grab and pop it on there. Actually, I'm gonna use the real tool because I can.
Yes.
You could get it with the needle nose pliers. It's just, I wanna do it the nice way because somebody bought this tool for us as a gift, John. Thank you, John. Actually, grumpy John, he's really grumpy. And then this goes right here. I always get it backward. This one's gonna be kind of hard to get into. So that bites there and pushes it on either side. Pops it right on. Yep. Now, this tool is better for removing than it is for putting it on. Because you can put them on, no problem. But if you go to remove it, it's really difficult to do. To the extent that I usually unscrew them all the way. Like I'll take out this Phillips screw, pull that control arm off. Yep. Okay, so the elevator is gonna move like this. Now, we're gonna go into the third hole as prescribed by the manual. Now, how do I know that I go in that way versus the other way? Well, logically speaking, if you have to go in the other way, like from the other side, you have to actually remove this from the plane, pull it out, and then you can slide in and spin it. Now, there have been planes where I've had to do that, believe it or not. Okay, so now let's look from the side. Let's show the people what we're looking at. You can see this is lifted up. and it's pointed down. So we don't want that. We want to unscrew this a couple of turns so that it points not up or down. Pretty close. Ooh, too much?
Ooh, a little bit too
back half a turn.
That's pretty good.
Okay, now back half a more turn. Nope, too much. So back half a turn again. All right, so we're good to go. Now I'm just gonna snap this on here. This works, there's a little cup that receives the tip of the screw and then it squishes on either side. Okay, so you line that up, grab the tool around there, and then it just pops right on. Show the people. Right like that, super easy. That looks pretty dang good. Actually, check your elevator again. That one looks perfect, guys.
Oh.
But then this one is not perfect. Now, I don't know if that's machined in to help counter P factor or if it's just a mistake. It's a small mistake. If it's a mistake, I don't think it's gonna be negligible when we're flying. We might get 1 click or 2 clicks of aileron trim to correct that, but I'm not worried about it at all. Okay, so as you can see, that build process was not very hard, and the only confusion we had was confusion in our own brains about the stabilizer being on or not. So if you guys watch our video, you should already know that that's not the case. So elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, take off flaps or half flap setting, full flap setting. Ooh, those flaps are very different. We have to fix that. Okay, yaw left, yaw right. I almost feel like I want more on that.
More yaw?
I want more yaw control. Now, watch this. Auto leveling. Not auto leveling. Wait, that's auto leveling. Hold on, I gotta check something. I feel like that was backward. Maybe it's because it's in an angle. Okay, so there's elevator up, elevator down, elevator up. There's auto leveling, okay? Not a big change. Okay, roll, auto leveling. Auto leveling is on. It only kicks it down just a little teeny bit. So there's 2 settings. In stabilized mode, then you're allowed to move at full output. In auto leveling, it's gonna reduce that slightly. And you're also gonna have a limited bank angle. So when your plane gets to a certain point, it's not gonna let you roll any further this way, but it will let you roll the other way. Now that doesn't mean that wind can't push you past, and it will still continue to correct in turn. Okay, so let's show the people what I was talking about on the flaps. So here's the takeoff flaps, or the half flap setting, and then the full flap setting is really where you're gonna see this come true. This one is not down as far as this one. Okay, you're not gonna be able to see probably from that angle. Let's show them from this angle, see if they can see. It's a little bit tough to see, but you can tell if you put your finger up there on that one there. Camera
this one here?
Yep, that one is not down as far, okay? So I am going to correct that now, and it's not really a hard thing to do, but I'll just tuck down here, and I think the easiest way to do this is to use that tool to pop this thing off, and then I'm gonna screw in 1/2 of a turn. Now, if you don't have the tool to pop this off, you can use a Phillips screw to undo this whole ball joint, but you're only gonna be allowed to make full turns instead of half turns. I bet a half a turn is all we're gonna need. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that tool back. That tool that John got us. So if you guys are curious, these things, I have no idea where he got them. So I can't even tell you, but they're called ball joint pliers. And if you're really curious, ask me and I'll put a link together for you. If you buy from the links, you'll support our channel, in case you didn't already know. I don't know how you wouldn't know if you've watched our channel before though, because we say it about 50 times a video. So in order to release this, you have to pull it off. So I don't know if you just pry or exactly how this one's really on there. It's like, it's really close. So I'm not sure if there's some trick to that, but I know that there is a way. See, that's the way you push it on. So we need to pull it off. So that doesn't do it.
You have to slide it.
Huh?
Yeah, like that.
Like this? Yeah, but there's not enough room to get it in there. So I wonder if there's some trick that I'm missing. I might have to look this up. See, there's also ball grabbers in here. I don't even know what that does.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah,
This is a little awkward to film, so
well,
tell me if I need to move.
see, I can't get my control in there because I think that's where you would hold on to it and just pull away. You see what I'm talking about? So again, guys, I apologize for not knowing how to use this tool properly. I should know, but I've never actually had to break one off of here, especially not on this plane. So I'm gonna show you what I would have done about, I don't know, 6 months ago when I didn't have that tool. I'll show you the easiest way to do it effectively, but this is not the only way to do it. You can pop that off with a flat screwdriver, but you run the risk of breaking something. I'm just gonna do it this way because then I don't have to worry about breaking it, okay? Then once this screw comes out,
Okay.
yeah, so far. I think you might need to lower down just a little bit though. Okay, so you see how that just released? So now look, what I was talking about is you have to spin it a whole 180 degrees. That's not necessarily true. So, yeah, it's on the outside hole. So then if I were to turn this in half a turn, there's half a turn, and then there's one full turn right there, okay? So I can center that screw in the ball joint, and then we'll see how we look. It's a little bit challenging to get this angle, so I apologize, folks, if we got a bad camera angle there. So I'm just gonna tighten this all the way because I think I probably have it. Okay. Now, if you want more deflection on your flaps, I'll show you how to do that next. Oh, we need even more. Wowzers. Show the people.
What?
Yeah. You gotta split the difference on the fuse, so go back just a hair. So they can see both sides at once. Right there, hold steady. See how this one needs to come down even more. You agree, right? So we're gonna unscrew this and do the exact same operation, which is gonna be to screw our control arm in probably a whole nother turn, to be honest. I thought we had it for sure.
I usually can see that, but I believe you.
Okay, so this is, we're turning it in, okay? So there's half a turn and then another half a turn, okay? But I didn't quite get it all the way. So this tool actually does have a little grabber on it, so you can spin those things easy, okay? See how that works? You can spin them. I've never used that part of the tool before. And once you've got it off of there, you can get that ball out. Okay. Whoops. Goodness gracious. It's an awkward spot to have to work. I don't think that they probably screw this part up too often. I would imagine it's we have a fluke here maybe on our hands. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. See what I just did? I just pulled this end down. Now let's look. I still don't think it's all the way. I don't think it's even. I think it's close, but it's not even. Go up a little higher with your camera. A little higher. Okay. So you see the right one still needs to come down even more. Don't you think? I think it needs to come down. Let's see what it looks like at neutral. See? Then this one's not all the way down. You do want symmetry on these, and I don't think we have it yet. I wonder if our control horn's in a slightly different position.
They're both down slightly though.
Yeah, but down slightly and down exactly the same amount. You know what? It just, because when this was deployed, okay, so let's talk about this for a second. When this was deployed, what did we know? It was not quite enough, right? But now when it's retracted, it's also not quite enough. But deployed, meaning all the way down, I feel like it needs to go down even more. Correct?
Then it's gonna be...
It's gonna be exaggerated even worse.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that? You know what? I wonder if we're in a different hole position here. So that's the other thing I didn't think about to check. I have 2 holes and then I'm in the third. This one looks like I'm also in the third, which is correct, and that's the way it should be. 1, 2, 3, I'm in the third hole there. So the other thing I've noticed is that this is on this side and that is on that side. So there's symmetry there. I'm just trying to think how we're gonna fix that. See, it's not even. You want it to be even, but it just isn't. All right, well, I'm gonna play with this and we'll tell you how we fix it. Okay, so in the unlikely event that you get a plane with flaps that are asymmetrical, meaning one is not in the same position as the other, and as they deploy, they're gonna stay incorrectly positioned. The problem I have here is I believe I figured it out. If you look at the way that this screwdriver is lined up, it's lined up with the holes. You can see how far down it is from the wing. So it's pointed down like this. Now over here, this one's pointed down even further. So what's going on is it's actually not the adjustment here, it's that this control arm is actually in a slightly different position. This one needs to be steepened a little bit, which would close this gap here. Then we can make agreement on this portion. It's uncommon that we run into this. This is sort of strange. It doesn't seem like something that you would get from an aeroplane. But I want to show you how to fix it. If you get into this situation, you can undo the wing here, here, and here, and actually take it out. Or you can just really do it the lazy way, which is the way I'm going to do it, and you can pierce a hole here. Okay, because all we need to do is basically take this screwdriver and work it through to where you can unscrew this thing. See this? So now I'm going to work like heck to hold the plane down in place while I unscrew this right here. Okay, see how it's backing out? Okay, once you back that out, this is where it's going to shoot across the room, generally. Now what I want to do is I want to take this off and move it in one tooth. Then I'm going to have to readjust this. Okay, so don't even worry about doing both at the same time. I think forceps will do the trick, but you could do it with needle nose pliers if you need some assistance. I'll grab both just in case. Forceps have a little bit smaller tip on the end, so it sometimes gets you into a better spot. This is an unusual problem. I haven't dealt with this for a long time, so I think we just had a fluke here probably, but I want to show you how to fix it. Okay, so then you just rotate that to the next set of teeth. Okay, now I'm gonna just show you the difference over here. Now, you'll note that this one's not all the way closed into the foam here. See that? Not all the way into the foam here. But then over here, we are pretty much into the foam. So what's gonna happen is there are sometimes disparities in the tooth position because the teeth are only so small or so big. So it's kind of like a coarse adjustment when you need a fine adjustment, okay? So I'm gonna just try this and see if maybe I missed something, because it's just challenging, it's just a tricky thing to have to do. So that's the one step. So now I'm gonna bring that down just a hair and see if the next step is where I think it is. See, I don't feel like there's a middle step, guys. Okay, so the next step, obviously it's not all the way down there. See, that's where we were. Okay, now show them this up here. See that gap? Watch what happens when I move to this other position, okay? When I move to the other position, what happens to that gap? It gets much lessened. Now go around to the other side and show them. Look at the gap. It's like almost indistinguishable. Now it's not perfect, it's not zero, but it's the same on both sides. That's the important part. We don't care if it's wrong, we care that it's symmetrical. Okay, actuate the flaps, actuate the flaps. And you're gonna note that there's a big difference now. But this might be where we have to try to make more adjustment here. But I just feel like you're never gonna catch up for the one adjustment from the other. So, in the world of reality, sometimes you run into these situations because you're gonna have a spline that has so many different tooth positions like this, right? And you don't get to dictate exactly where home is on that sweep, okay? That's what we just determined. We're not gonna be able to make these exactly even. So if you get into a situation like that, don't worry, there's hope, sort of. If you have enough channels, you can separate the left and right channel of your servo. Or you can operate them as one channel and then you can mix and do an adjustment there. So they have to be two separate channels though, but you can mix them together is what I'm saying. So you can command and control the flaps, but then you can have an offset on this one, okay? And that's gonna allow you to make them exactly level. The other thing you can do is you can unglue and re-glue the control arm here, or you can do like we did, where you try to move this control from this position, and then you can see if you can get away with it. Now, I'm also gonna try one other trick, and that is to take this, and I'm actually just gonna move it to a totally different position. You're like, but how does that solve anything, Brian? Well, first of all, it gives you more deployment, and I want more deployment, so I'm gonna put this into the fully parked position, so normal flight mode. And I just wanna see, because remember, flaps are pretty easy to work with. And no, we're not gonna have them in different positions. It's just the way that they are for now. And yes, that does have to be in there for the moment because it's too tight otherwise.
We're getting low on battery.
Uh-oh, that's bad. Okay, so I'm gonna slide that in there and just try to get this so that it's level and then slip it on, okay? So that's pretty dang close. So now I can take my screwdriver and push this on. Like low like 15% or low like 0%?
I'm not sure, but I can't turn the flash on.
Oh, that's nice. So that's below 15%, by the way?
At least, I think 5 actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you're the camera crew, you know best. So you can see, obviously now at this point, this one's gonna go way further down. Okay? Mm-hmm. And it also ran out of throw because it ran into itself. Okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna split the middle. I'm gonna go to the next hole in and see if we can get them to match up. So in the meantime, we're gonna pause and come back and I'll show you how it looks when it's fixed. All right, so I told you guys I would come up with a solution to make the flap in disparity. And it's not just that they weren't lined up, it's that one went down less far. On the right side, it went down less far than the left one. I don't know why that is. It's very strange. I looked at 3 different factors. One, I made sure that we were on the correct holes. There's 2 holes on these. There's also 4 holes on here. I verified these were the same size. I verified we had the same dimension from this hole point to the actual pivot point here, okay? Those dimensions were the same. So when the dimensions from this servo pivot point are the same to this pivot point, then that's a good thing, okay? That's what you expect to happen. But what was happening is the deployment was not even. Now it is. Okay, you see how they are even. Okay, that's full landing flaps, takeoff flaps, and then of course, you can do your comparison here to see if they're even. They're very close. Okay, so we're very close. They're not perfect, but they're within 1 millimeter or so. Now, with full deployment, just to show you, I use this stick portion of the calipers. It says 30.48 millimeters, and I'll show you exactly how I fixed it here in a second. And I'm measuring from here to the bottom. And yes, it is kind of hard to do it without moving it around a little bit. You can see it's 34 and a half millimeters. And then from here, it's 34 and a half millimeters, okay? From here, it's 34 and a half plus or minus a half. And then from here, it's probably 35 or 31, let's call it. Okay, so that's close enough. But we were talking about multi-millimeter differences, which is very unusual. How did I fix it? It was not hard to fix, but it was hard to figure out. The way I did it was I got a little ultra drill bit set, which I think this, well, I can measure it and tell you how big it is. I used a micrometer for this, or 1.5 millimeters, okay? So 1.5 millimeter drill bit, and I drilled in the middle. This is gonna be a hard one to see. I drilled right between the 2 available holes, here and here, so I added a 3rd hole. That hole wasn't there. You try to point up just a little bit. You see how that's in the middle now? That doesn't exist on the other side, okay? And we're on the outside hole, okay? So because it's on the outside hole, and this is what you see as a molding, it's a molding mark. That middle, it's not a hole, okay? So there's only 2 holes available, and I just made a hole in the middle. Now, how did that fix the geometry? I don't know why the geometry was wrong. It should have been right, but it wasn't, so we fixed it. Why do we care that the flaps deploy at the same amount? Let's say that we have a 5% difference. You're probably not going to notice on a plane like this. You would just correct it with either a flight mode that has trims attached to each flap position, and you could have a little bit of aileron or none, a little bit of aileron or none, and a little bit of aileron or none, but not necessarily the same on each step. So you make flight mode 1, trims are separate from flight mode 2, trims are separate from flight mode 3, and then you associate your flight mode to your flap switch. Not your flap mode, but your flap switch. Okay? So when you deploy your flaps, you can change what the trim is. So then the indisparity is not going to cause your plane to roll a little bit. Now, I'm not saying it's going to like flip you over and you're going to crash, especially if you're in auto leveling, it's going to auto level it out. But I don't want this quality of a plane to have that indisparity. That's very strange to me. I wonder if I have a bad servo. But either way, I fixed it, and it was an easy fix. And all I needed was a let's just call it a 1 millimeter drill bit to make a pilot hole for that to go in. Why did this fix it? Because it changed the geometry between this step and this step. I tried going in one hole here, and I had almost the same, but then this one deployed by just maybe 4 to 5 millimeters too far on the maximum deployment, okay? Again, you could fix that with the flight mode attached to flaps, so that you could have trim that's separate on each of them, or you could fix it by making them mechanically actuate to the same position. That's what we opted to do. And I feel like that's the easiest way for most people. So we're gonna show you how to do it. So you drill the hole, you move this screw up into the middle hole, then you make your alignment as close as you can. If you're not perfect here, you can actually bend this a little bit. I know it sounds a little bit hokey, but it does actually bend. It's a little bit flexible. So the big thing is each step, you have the same amount of steps. So this is the middle step. We haven't measured this yet, so we'll measure this now. I'm zeroing my calipers. Let's just see what we've got here. Let's just say it moves a little bit, so you got to be a little bit careful. Okay, so let's call that 15.64. And over here we got our 15.64. So it's close enough. I mean, I'm not getting real critical because I can press on this and move it. But at the end of the day, we got them both to be centered in a very unusual problem. Now, here's the thing that I can tell you about arrows, Horizon, X-Fly, who else? Sunnyside, who else? We've worked with a bunch of different Eachine, XK. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've worked with a ton of different manufacturers. And, FMS, obviously. All of those manufacturers are vulnerable to having an indisparity of position. That should be correctable by bringing this in and out. Here's why it's not. Because these positions are exactly the same. On an aileron, you're opposite. So the change, you split the difference when you have an indisparity that's one tooth off. That's why this was so exaggerated. So I don't want you to say, oh, Arrow's quality is bad. No, this is a fluke. It's very uncommon. We happen to be just as far off tolerance-wise as we could on this side, and we had to be this far off on tolerance side on the other. We tried to fix it, but it overcorrected to the point that we just happen to be as far off as you can be and still not work, which is super annoying. Because if it was any more further off, it would have started getting better. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you guys that are listening. But anyway, so we drilled that middle hole, fixed the geometry. Now our tolerances are good. As we deploy, we should expect this plane to keep flying flat, true, and level, and the slow flight performance will not be compromised. That being said, pretty easy fix. Just used a drill, nothing special there, and drilled that hole. So without further ado, guys, this plane is awesome. I cannot wait to see it in the air. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I did in my flap mode settings, let's show them this because I don't think we talked about the time delay, but I went in here and while I was playing with that, I noticed that we had just 10 and 16. Okay, that's where we're gonna start. Also for takeoff flaps, if you wanna do a wide angle now, this is our normal, oh, I set it to 3 seconds. I'm gonna set it back to 2 seconds. And I think we're gonna do -100, that brings it right here. Takeoff flaps, that's probably about right, but really, I usually deploy less flap for takeoff. So if I did like -20, so there's takeoff, then there's landing, okay? If you want more output, you can only go to 100 on here. So what you can do is you can walk into servo setup, you can go to travel, you can scroll down to flaps when you're deployed. Now watch what happens when I scroll this number up. See how it moves? See how it stopped moving? I'm gonna try to put it back into that position. Now watch, it's gonna stall out. Hear it? Okay, but you'll also note that they look really even now, okay? So 150, highlight that number, back it off until you don't hear the stall. So 135. So now we got some barn doors, which is what I like. So 135 it is. Okay, you can overdrive most brands of servo through that menu. Some brands have special controls set up in the programming of the receiver, namely Horizon, okay? So when you get a plug and fly from Horizon, you can overdrive the servos to different positions that are beyond. But buyer beware. If you overdrive them and you hit the frame and you overdrive them too long, you'll burn them out just like any good quality servo is gonna burn out if you overdo it. So here's how you know if you're gonna hit, you test it on a foamy, you can just basically run it in and then shut it off quick. If it's a balsa wood plane, you'll overdrive those things in about 30 seconds, they'll be burned up. Sometimes they catch on fire. I've actually had that happen. But you can look in here and you can see when it pinches, okay? See this gap? It's gonna pinch. We stopped it just shy of the pinch. But look at that barn door. That is so sweet. I love the flap deflection. I like to have a lot of flap deflection on a STOL plane because after all, short takeoffs and landings are gonna call for a lot of drag and reduced stall speeds. And that's what this is gonna do. So without further ado, guys, if you like this plane, it is absolutely gorgeous. We didn't even hardly talk about the lights. We've got the Expo set up. We've got the dual rates set up. We've got the stabilizers set up to turn on or auto level and stabilization. We've got the flap set up. Look at the way the landing gear worked too. I didn't talk about this yet, but look at this. When I get on the ground, look how that splays. I didn't realize, but these things actually move a lot. And I think that's by design because it's just a simple spring mechanism. The way that these go in and out. See that? Isn't that sweet? And then these wheel pants slide up and down on this here and here and here so as not to break. Very cool design. Love the prop. Love the lights. Would like to see a tail light on this plane. I would like to see an anti-crash beacon or maybe some oscillating landing lights. That'd be cool. But that can all be added with a little bit of effort. And yes, we didn't test this for power, and I want to test it for power real quick. So that's the last thing we're going to leave you guys with because we never actually ran the power up. Throttle cut is currently off, so I'm going to be super careful, and I don't want to grab the canopy. You good? Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Okay, so now we have to try to fly it. You ready? In the living room, sort of. Throttle cut is on, by the way. We have to make this thing float, Christmas special style. Okay, so we do this sometimes. Be careful, if you do stupid things, you get stupid prizes. Everybody knows that phraseology, right? Okay, so this thing is big, but I want to see it stand on its own. Okay, so throttle cuts off. Here we go. %. Throttle cuts on. That is awesome, guys. This thing is gonna be so powerful. And I hope it's powerful in a way that is both refined looking and fun to fly. And every other Aerosa we've had has been exactly that. So can't wait to share it with you. You guys have seen it fly already, but we haven't. I'm just super excited for this one. It looks really nice. Definitely, if you guys wanna help support our channel, buy this plane from the link in the video description. Small commissions from the manufacturers we work with make it into our back pocket when you buy from those links. And yes, that is true for all of the brands we work with. There is nothing unique about this particular plane versus another. So by all means, if you like something else better, please buy that. But we bring these videos to you so that you can make the difference between this and that, because they all look good online. And that's part of the problem, because a lot of them are really good. That being said, there's some that are really terrible, and we've reviewed them for you. So that being said, this is an absolutely gorgeous delight. It was super easy to put together until we ran into the weird problem on that flap, but we did fix it. So it is what it is. I'll take it, because that was still like only 150,000 times easier than building a Dynam. Correct?
Yes.
All right, guys, stay tuned. So much more. It's so huge coming right around the corner for you at Brian Phillips RC. We appreciate your patronage. And speaking of patronage, we want to thank our Patreons for supporting us monthly. And for those of you that feel the need to send us gifts on PayPal, we are honored and privileged. And if you guys are wondering how that works, just look in the video description below. We usually link to the plane that we're reviewing, the battery that was used, the receiver that was used, the transmitter that was used, just so you guys don't have to go searching the World Wide Web for all that. Plus then we can get commissions when you buy these things, and that helps support our channel. But then if you don't want to do that, or let's say you're in United Kingdom and you don't want to pay for shipping for maybe this particular venue, and you can get it local hobby shop, then you can support us with Patreon or PayPal, and those are two easy ways for people to do that, especially if you're abroad. But that being said, we don't discriminate against broads. Come back for more.